Hello there, and welcome to The Tired Thinker, a quiet corner of the internet where big, strange ideas slow down just enough for us to sit with them. Tonight's late-night exploration drifts into the shadows of thought itself. We'll be wandering through Forbidden Philosophies, ideas so unsettling, so deeply strange, that they don't just challenge what you believe, they challenge how you believe anything at all. These aren't the tidy, comfortable questions you find in a classroom or a friendly debate. These are the ones that gnaw at the edges of your mind, the ones you don't easily forget. They whisper to you in the still hours of the night, asking what reality really is and what you really are. Before we dive into these impossible worlds of thought, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? In that small corner of existence you call home. It's strange, isn't it? A video about reality itself, and here we are, scattered across so many places, yet all sharing this same moment, like thoughts drifting through a single, restless mind. If you find this kind of slow, unsettling philosophy comforting, or if you're just here to let your mind wander before sleep, I'd be grateful if you gently liked the video or subscribed. It helps this quiet little channel reach others who might need a soft space to think dangerously. Now, take a breath, and let's begin. Imagine waking up one day and deciding that nothing outside your own mind is real. You believe the world around you is a projection, like a movie playing only for you. The people you meet are not real people. They are like characters in a dream. The sky, the ground, even the clock ticking on the wall exist only because you are thinking about them. This belief is called Solipsism. Taken to its extreme, it says that only your mind exists and everything else is an illusion. Think about how this would change the way you live. When you see a friend smiling, you no longer think they are happy in their own right. You believe that your mind created their smile. Their words are not theirs. They are just sounds your mind invents. If you walk into a room and see a chair, the chair exists only in that moment because you are thinking about it. When you leave, it stops existing until you think about it again. Even time itself becomes a trick. The past never happened. The future does not exist. There is only the present moment, and even that is part of your own thoughts. Take the simple act of eating breakfast. You pour cereal into a bowl. Under extreme solipsism, the cereal does not exist outside of your mind. The crunch you hear as you eat is only a sensation you created. The milk is not real. Even the concept of hunger might be an invention. There is no body that needs food. There is only the idea of a body because your mind thought it into being. This way of thinking can feel strange and unsettling. It removes the usual rules of life. If other people are not real, then ideas like kindness or cruelty lose their usual meaning. If you insult someone, you are only talking to yourself. If you help someone, you are only playing out a scenario in your own imagination. There is no one else to thank you or blame you. The world becomes a stage, and you are the only actor and the only audience. Consider a situation where you are driving a car. Under normal thinking, you stay in your lane to avoid crashing into another car. Under extreme solipsism, that other car does not have a real driver. It exists only because you imagined it. If you chose to, you could imagine it vanishing. The danger of a crash disappears because there was never another mind involved. But here is the problem. Even if you believe the other car is not real, you still feel fear. You still grip the steering wheel and stay in your lane. Your thoughts keep creating the experience of danger. You cannot escape your own imagination so easily. The idea can spiral deeper. If the world is only in your mind, what about the parts of the world you cannot see? Right now, there might be a mountain on the other side of the planet. Under extreme solipsism, That mountain does not exist until you think of it. The moment you imagine it, your mind creates it. If you stop thinking about it, it disappears. This means the entire universe might blink in and out of existence as your attention shifts from one thing to another. Even science loses its footing here. Scientists study atoms, galaxies, and everything in between. They build theories about how the universe works. But if nothing exists outside your mind, those theories are just stories you invented. The scientist you see on a screen giving a lecture is not real. Their voice, their slides, even the data they show are just more images in your imagination. The concept of proof falls apart because you are both the one proving and the one being convinced. This belief can lead to strange choices. Imagine you are walking down the street and see someone trip and fall. Normally, you might rush to help them. Under extreme solipsism, you might pause. If they are not real, why bother helping? But if you do nothing, you might still feel guilt. That guilt comes from within your mind, too. So even in a world where nothing else exists, you still face the weight of your own feelings. The scenario becomes a loop. You create the person, the fall, the guilt, and the decision all at once. Some people find comfort in this idea. If everything is your creation, then you are never truly alone. Every voice you hear is a piece of yourself talking back. Every landscape you see is a painting you made without realizing it. Nothing can harm you because there is nothing outside you to cause harm. Pain and loss become like bad dreams. You can tell yourself that they are only illusions and feel a kind of safety in that. Others find it deeply frightening. If only your mind exists, then no one else can understand you. There is no one to share your experiences with. Love becomes a play you are staging for yourself. A warm hug is not a real connection, but just another sensation you imagined. The world can start to feel hollow, like a set built for a play with no audience. This way of thinking can even touch how you view death. If nothing outside your mind exists, then death might not be a real event. When someone you know dies, that event is only a story in your thoughts. Even your own death becomes hard to picture. If your mind is all there is, what would it mean for it to stop? There is no outside observer to see it end. In this view, death might be impossible because there is no reality beyond your own awareness. Everyday life becomes a puzzle under extreme solipsism. You might still go to work, pay bills, and talk to friends, but you see these actions differently. They are like movements in a dream. You play along because your mind keeps creating the illusion of routine. If you stopped playing, what would happen? Would the world vanish, or would your mind simply create a new scene to replace it? This belief is difficult to prove or disprove. No matter what evidence you find, it comes from within your own experience. If you see a tree, you can never step outside your mind to check if the tree exists independently. If you feel the bark, that feeling happens inside you. Even if someone else tells you they see the same tree, their words are still part of your perception. There is no way to break free of your own perspective. Thinking about this too much can feel dizzying. It challenges the most basic assumptions about reality. Most people brush off these thoughts and go back to seeing the world as solid and shared. But the idea of extreme solipsism remains, whispering that maybe everything is just you, dreaming alone in the dark. Imagine you are playing a video game. You control a character who lives in a digital world. That character might believe their world is real. They see landscapes, buildings, and other characters. They have no way of knowing that their reality is running on a computer. Now imagine that you, the player, are also inside a simulation. Someone outside your reality is controlling you, just as you control the character in the game. You might think you live in the real world, but there could be another level above you, and maybe another above that. This is the idea of infinite regression of reality. It says there is no final solid world. Each reality exists inside another, like a never-ending set of boxes. Think about nesting dolls, those wooden figures that fit inside one another. You open one and find another inside, then another, and it keeps going. Each time you think you've reached the last doll, you find one more. Infinite regression works the same way. If you discover that your world is a simulation, it doesn't mean you've reached the truth. The world running your simulation might itself be a simulation. There might never be a base layer where everything is truly real. Picture a scientist in your world. They work to understand the laws of nature. They run experiments and build theories. But if your world is simulated, those laws were programmed by someone. The scientist is studying rules that exist only because a higher world created them. Now imagine that higher world has scientists too. They think they are uncovering the ultimate truth, but they are just studying rules someone above them set. This chain continues forever. At no point does anyone reach the final answer, because there is no final world to reach. Consider a simple example. You are sitting in a room reading a book. In another reality, a person might be watching you on a screen, like you are part of a show. That person believes their world is solid and yours is fiction. But maybe someone else is watching them, and so on without end. You cannot tell how many layers there are. Every time you think you are at the top, there could be another level above, pulling the strings. This idea creates strange questions about free will. If you make a choice, is it really yours? Or is it part of a script written by someone higher up? Maybe you decided what to eat for breakfast today. In an infinite regression, your decision might come from a line of code. The person or being who wrote that code might have had their own choices programmed by another, and so on. This chain of control never ends, which makes it hard to say where true freedom begins. Even basic actions become uncertain. Imagine you are walking in a park and see a bird. You think it is just a bird living its life. But what if that bird is an object rendered by your simulation? The system shows it to you only because you looked in that direction. Now imagine that the computer running your world is itself part of another system. In that case, the bird's existence depends on 2 layers of machines, maybe 3, maybe infinite. At some point, the question of whether the bird is real loses meaning because there is no clear bottom layer to define what real means. Technology gives us clues about how this might work. Virtual reality already lets people experience convincing fake worlds. Someone wearing a headset might forget their living room and believe in the digital space around them. If we can create a world so detailed that people cannot tell it apart from reality, what stops someone above us from doing the same? And if they can do it, maybe they are inside a simulation too. Each step up the chain could have more advanced technology, endlessly simulating worlds below. Imagine a lab technician creating a simulation of an entire universe. Inside that simulation, beings evolve. They build cities, make art, and ask questions about their world. At some point, one of them creates their own simulation. Inside that new simulation, more beings evolve. This process repeats, layer after layer. From the top layer, it might look like a stack of glass boxes, each one containing a universe. From the inside, each universe feels complete and self-contained. The beings inside never see the layers above. The idea becomes more unsettling when you think about memory. What if your memories are not proof of a solid past, but only data loaded into your mind at the moment you need them? For example, you remember your childhood home, but that memory might have been written by the system just now. The same could be true for everyone around you. Even history itself might be a simulation feature, like a backstory in a video game. It feels old and deep, but it was created instantly when you looked for it. This endless chain of realities can also affect how you think about truth. Suppose you find evidence that your world is a simulation, like a glitch or an impossible event. You might feel certain you've uncovered the secret. But what if that glitch was placed there on purpose by the higher world? It might not be an error at all. It could be a feature meant to test your reactions. Even if you break free from your current simulation, the next level up might be no more real than the one you left. You can never be sure you have escaped. Take a more personal scenario. You are talking to a friend, sharing a private thought. You trust them because you believe they are a separate person. But what if their mind is part of the simulation's design? Their words might not come from them, but from the system generating your experience. If there are infinite layers, even the creators above you might not be independent. They could be following scripts given to them by a higher layer. In this way, individuality itself becomes uncertain. Every being might just be a function in a code that no one fully understands. Some people find this concept freeing. If every layer is simulated, then mistakes and failures lose weight. Nothing you do matters in the ultimate sense, because there is no ultimate sense. Others find it terrifying. If nothing is truly real, then meaning itself seems to slip away. Why strive for anything if each goal is just another program running in an endless stack of programs? The idea also challenges how you see the future. You might plan for tomorrow, next year, or decades ahead. But if your world is just one layer among countless others, the future might already exist in another layer's design. Your sense of time passing could be a feature of the simulation. Even the concept of tomorrow might depend on rules written far above you. Infinite regression of reality leaves you with a strange picture. Every world rests on another, like mirrors reflecting into infinity. You cannot see the top or the bottom, and there may be neither. Each layer believes it is the final one, while somewhere above, another reality continues the chain. Imagine a world where every thought you have and every action you take was already set in motion long before you were born. In this world, free will is not real. You only believe you are making choices because your brain is wired to produce that feeling. This is the core of nihilistic determinism. It combines two ideas. The first is determinism, which says everything happens because of prior causes, like a chain of falling dominoes. The second is nihilism, which says life has no inherent meaning and concepts like morality are human inventions. Together, they create a worldview where nothing you do is truly yours and nothing ultimately matters. Think about a simple act like raising your hand. You might feel like you decided to do it, but under determinism, the movement was inevitable. Your brain fired signals to your muscles because of chemical processes that started before you were aware of them. Those processes were shaped by your genetics, your past experiences, and the state of the world around you. If you trace them back far enough, you end up at events that happened long before you were alive. You raised your hand because the universe left you no other option. Now add nihilism. If your actions are determined, then moral judgment loses its foundation. Suppose someone commits a crime. Under this view, they were bound to do it because of causes they did not control. Their upbringing, biology, and environment created the exact conditions for that act. Punishing them might change future behavior, but it does not make them truly responsible. In this framework, words like good and evil become labels you use to describe outcomes, not deeper truths about right and wrong. Imagine a courtroom where everyone accepts nihilistic determinism. The judge sentences a thief to prison, not because the thief deserves punishment, but because the sentence itself is another link in the causal chain. The judge did not freely choose the sentence either. Their decision was shaped by laws, personal history, and the way their brain works. Even the law itself is part of the chain, written by people who were also determined. The entire legal system becomes a machine running on its own, with no true agency inside it. Consider relationships. You might think you love someone, because you decided to. In this worldview, love is a chemical pattern produced by your brain. You feel drawn to a person because of past experiences and genetic factors you never controlled. Even the moment you say, "I love you," was determined before you were aware of wanting to say it. The same is true for them. Their feelings toward you are not choices but inevitable outcomes of their biology and history. Romantic ideals about soulmates or destiny shift under this lens. There is no destiny, just a series of causes creating the illusion of connection. This idea even applies to resistance against it. Imagine someone hearing about nihilistic determinism and feeling angry. They shout, "I refuse to believe that my choices don't matter." According to this view, their resistance is also predetermined. Their outrage was caused by their personality, their past, and the exact words they heard at that moment. Their belief in free will is just another outcome of the same process. Even the act of denying determinism fits perfectly into the chain of events that makes up the universe. Think of a row of falling dominoes. Once the first one tips, every other domino falls in a predictable pattern. Each one hits the next at a precise moment. Now imagine that instead of dominoes, it's the entire universe. Every atom, every thought, every event follows from the ones before it. You, sitting and reading these words, are one piece in that chain. The feeling that you could stand up and leave the room right now is part of the pattern. If you do stand up, it was always going to happen. If you stay seated, that was fixed too. There was never a fork in the road, only one continuous path. Some people try to find comfort in determinism by thinking of themselves as part of a grand design. But nihilism strips that comfort away. If there is no inherent meaning, then the chain of events is just blind motion. The universe is not aiming for a goal. It is not trying to teach lessons or reward anyone. Things happen because they must, not because they serve a purpose. When a storm destroys a town, it is not punishment or test. It is just a physical process unfolding. When someone is born, it is not a gift or blessing. It is another effect of causes stretching back in time. Take the example of a war. Under this worldview, no leader freely chose to start the conflict. Economic pressures, cultural tensions, and past decisions created conditions that made the war inevitable. Soldiers fight because of orders they received, which were given by commanders shaped by their own causes. Civilians suffer because they happen to be in the path of the chain of events. The idea of blame fades. Everyone involved is both victim and agent, though neither role has ultimate meaning. Even your inner life fits this model. Suppose you are deciding what to eat for dinner. You think through your options, weigh pros and cons, and then pick one. From the inside, it feels like you are making a free choice. From the outside, every step of your thought process follows predictable laws of biology and physics. The neurons in your brain fire in patterns that were set in motion by everything that came before. If someone had a perfect map of the universe, they could predict your choice before you made it. This view can feel crushing. If morality is meaningless and free will is an illusion, it can seem like nothing matters. Why strive? Why care? Why act at all? But even that reaction is determined. If you feel despair, that feeling comes from causes beyond your control. If you keep going, that too was set in motion long ago. You cannot step outside the chain to escape it. You can only move as it moves you. Consider a person who dedicates their life to helping others. Under nihilistic determinism, their compassion is not a higher virtue. It is a product of their genetics, upbringing, and experiences. The lives they improve are real in a practical sense, but not in a moral one. Helping others is like water flowing downhill. It happens because conditions make it happen, not because of choice or meaning. On the other side, imagine someone who harms others. Their cruelty comes from the same kind of causes. They are like a storm damaging a village. You can dislike the outcome, but the storm itself has no intention. It simply follows natural forces. In this view, the person's harmful actions are part of the same impersonal chain. Hate them or forgive them. Either response is another determined event. Even the act of writing these words fits the model. They appear on the page because of causes stretching back through time, from the shape of the keyboard to the history of language itself. You reading them now was fixed as well. The moment you finish this sentence, you will think whatever you are about to think, and that thought will be the only one you could have had. Imagine dropping a ball. You let go and it falls to the ground. Normally, you believe the ball falls because gravity pulls it down. The cause is your hand releasing the ball, and the effect is the ball hitting the floor. This way of thinking, where causes lead to effects, is how we usually understand the world. Anti-Causality rejects this completely. In this worldview, events do not need causes. Things happen, but not because something made them happen. Effects appear on their own, like sudden flashes of light in a dark room. Picture a tree standing alone in a field. Under normal thinking, if the tree catches fire, you expect to find a cause: lightning, a spark, or someone setting it on fire. In anti-causality, the tree could burst into flames for no reason at all. There is no hidden match, no buildup of heat, no chain of events. The fire simply begins, and there is nothing deeper to explain why. If you tried to trace it backward, you would find nothing. It would be like trying to follow a path that ends in open air. This idea can feel unnatural because we are used to linking events together. When you hear a loud crash in your house, you immediately search for a cause. Maybe something fell from a shelf or a window slammed shut. Anti-causality says your search might be pointless. The crash could have just happened, appearing in your experience without origin. The broken object on the floor is not the result of a chain of events. It is simply there, like a thought appearing in your mind without warning. Consider human actions. If someone shouts at you, you usually assume they shouted because they were angry. Maybe they were angry because of something you did. That anger came from earlier experiences, like stress or pain. This is how cause and effect usually work. But if anti-causality is true, the shout might have no connection to anything. The person could have shouted without any reason at all. Their anger might not come from a past event. It might not even be real in the way you think. It could just appear and vanish like a spark in the dark. Imagine sitting alone in a quiet room. You are reading a book when, without warning, you hear music playing. You look around and find no source. Under normal rules, you would think there must be a hidden speaker. Or maybe you are imagining it. Anti-causality allows another possibility. The music exists without cause. It is not coming from anywhere, and it is not leading to anything. It begins, plays for a moment, and ends, all without reason. The event is complete in itself. This view changes how you think about patterns. Humans like to see connections. If you notice dark clouds, you expect rain. If you plant a seed, you expect it to grow into a plant. Anti-causality says these expectations might be illusions. The clouds might appear and then nothing happens. The seed might sprout or not, but either way, there is no true cause behind it. You see patterns because your mind tries to organize random events into stories. The stories feel solid, but they are like pictures drawn on water. They have no lasting base. Consider science. Scientists build theories to explain how things work. They look for laws that connect causes to effects, like how gravity moves planets or how chemicals react. If anti-causality is correct, these laws are not describing reality. They are just descriptions of coincidences that seem stable for a while. At any moment, those patterns could break. A planet could stop orbiting for no reason. A chemical reaction could produce something entirely unexpected. There would be no underlying rule being violated, because there were never rules to begin with. Imagine a doctor treating a patient. The patient takes medicine, and under normal thinking, the medicine works because of chemical effects in the body. Under anti-causality, the patient's recovery might have nothing to do with the medicine. They might heal because healing appeared as an effect without cause. The medicine might have no relationship to the outcome, even if it seems to. This would make medicine and every other form of intervention a matter of chance rather than control. This worldview also changes how we see the past and future. Normally, we believe the past creates the present, and the present creates the future. Events flow like a river, each moment shaped by what came before. Anti-causality says the river might not exist. The present moment could stand alone, unconnected to anything behind or ahead of it. History might not have caused today. Tomorrow might not grow out of today. Instead, each moment might appear and vanish like flashes of light, unrelated and independent. Take memory as an example. You remember being a child, going to school, playing with friends. You believe those memories are records of real events that caused who you are now. Under anti-causality, those memories could exist without ever having been caused. They are not proof of a past, only sensations in your mind right now. Your identity might not come from a continuous chain. It might just be an effect appearing in this moment, like a photograph that exists without ever having been taken. Imagine watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. Normally, you assume there is a trick. The rabbit was hidden, and the magician used skill to reveal it. Anti-causality says there might be no trick at all. The rabbit simply appeared, not because of skill or hidden tools, but because effects can exist without causes. In this view, every event in life is like that rabbit, appearing from nowhere. The magician's hat is the entire universe, and things emerge without explanation. This perspective also changes how you think about responsibility. If actions do not have causes, then there is no reason for them. If someone helps you, they did not do it because they are kind or because of past experiences. Their help simply happened. If someone harms you, that harm was not caused by malice or anger. It was just an event that appeared. Blame and praise lose their usual meaning. There is no deeper motive to find, no chain of reasons to trace back. Consider a game of dice. Normally, you think the outcome is random because you cannot see all the tiny causes, like how the dice were thrown or the shape of the table. Anti-causality says the outcome is not just unknown, it might not be caused at all. The dice could land on a number for no reason whatsoever, even if you rolled them exactly the same way twice. One time, they might land on 6, the next on 3, not because of hidden factors, but because events simply appear without cause. In a world without causes, planning becomes strange. You might prepare for a trip, pack your bags, and buy tickets. Normally, you expect these actions to lead to a trip happening, but under anti-causality, your preparation does not guarantee anything. The trip might occur, or it might not, and neither outcome is tied to your actions. The link between effort and result dissolves. Life becomes a series of moments with no threads connecting them. Even language reflects this shift. When you say because, you imply a cause. The window broke because of the storm. Anti-causality erases that word. The window broke, and that is all. There is no deeper link to name. The storm might have been there, or not. The break exists by itself, whole and unexplained. Imagine standing in a field at night. A star appears in the sky where there was none before. It does not rise, it does not move into place, it simply appears. You look up and see it, and there is nothing behind it. In that moment, you are looking at a universe where effects happen without causes, where the chain of explanation is not broken but never existed at all. Imagine walking through a marketplace filled with voices. One person claims they know the truth about the universe. Another shouts that their God is the only real one. A third insists there is no God at all. Under normal thinking, you try to sort through these claims. You ask which one is correct, which one has evidence, which one matches reality. Total relativism rejects this search. It says there is no final answer because truth itself has no fixed meaning. Every belief is as valid as any other, and at the same time, just as invalid. There is no ultimate ground to stand on, only competing perspectives with no way to prove one above the rest. Think about morality. In many societies, people believe certain actions are good and others are evil. One culture may see honesty as a high virtue, while another values loyalty to family, even when it requires lying. Under total relativism, neither view is inherently right. Good and evil are labels we create, not universal facts. If a person in one culture helps a stranger, they may be praised. In another culture, the same act might be seen as foolish or wrong. Both judgments are equally true within their own frameworks, but neither has final authority outside of them. Consider a courtroom in two different countries. In one, a certain act is punishable by law. In another, the same act is celebrated as noble. Under total relativism, the law itself has no deeper truth. It is a local rule, like a game played by a particular group. To say one law is just and another unjust is to speak only from within one game's rules. Step outside, and the rules dissolve into preference and tradition. Even the concept of justice itself becomes another cultural invention, no more real than a story told around a fire. This view reaches beyond morality and law. It also applies to beauty. People often argue about what makes art meaningful or what counts as beautiful. One person may stand before a painting and feel moved to tears. Another may see nothing special at all. Normally, you might say that one person has better taste or deeper understanding. Total relativism denies this. Beauty is not a quality in the painting itself. It is a reaction inside the viewer. A pile of trash can be art if someone calls it art. A classic masterpiece can be meaningless if someone sees it that way. There is no final judge to settle the matter. Imagine a music competition where every performer plays a completely different style. One plays a soft flute song, another bangs on metal pipes, another sits in silence and calls it a performance. If there are no standards, who wins? Under total relativism, all performances are equal. The idea of better or worse is only a reflection of personal taste. A listener might prefer one piece, but that preference does not make it objectively superior. Every judgment is like a vote, and no vote carries more weight than another. Logic itself also falls under this view. Normally, you think logic is fixed. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. This seems like a universal rule. Total relativism challenges even this certainty. Logic is a tool humans invented to organize experience. It works inside its own system. But there is no reason to assume it applies to everything. Another culture or another species might follow completely different rules of thought. What you call contradiction might be meaningless to them. In their framework, two opposing ideas could both be true without conflict. From this perspective, logic is not truth. It is one way of seeing, no more binding than a local dialect. Imagine a conversation between two people using different languages. Each speaks fluently in their own tongue, but cannot understand the other. Neither language is more correct. They are just systems with their own symbols and rules. Logic, under total relativism, is like one of these languages. It organizes thought for those who use it, but it does not reflect a deeper structure of reality. Someone using another language of reason would see your logic as strange, maybe even nonsensical, and they would be just as justified in doing so. This worldview has strange effects on science. Scientists search for patterns in nature. They build theories about gravity, evolution, and atoms. Under normal thinking, these theories describe how the world truly works. Under total relativism, they are just stories told within a certain framework. The equations and experiments are tools that function well for certain purposes, like predicting the weather or building a bridge. But they are not more true than myths or legends. A rain dance and a weather forecast both serve to explain and predict. One uses symbols called numbers. The other uses ritual. Neither has ultimate authority. They are different games played on the same field. Consider history. People write books about the past, trying to explain what really happened. Under total relativism, history is not a fixed record. It is a set of stories shaped by whoever tells them. Two nations may describe the same war in completely opposite ways. One side calls it liberation, the other calls it invasion. There is no neutral version to settle the argument. Every account reflects the perspective of the writer and the needs of their group. Even the choice of which events to record and which to ignore is a value judgment, not a fact. Imagine two children building castles in the sand. Each claims their castle is the best. They argue about design and strength. From outside, you see that both castles will be washed away by the tide. Their argument has no lasting meaning. Total relativism views human beliefs in the same way. Religions, philosophies, and ideologies are like those sand castles. People fight over which one is superior, but all are temporary and groundless. When the tide of time comes, they dissolve, and only new castles rise in their place. This view also changes how you think about conflict. If no belief has ultimate truth, then fighting to defend one seems strange. Imagine two people arguing about whether a coin is lucky. One insists it brings good fortune. The other says it is just metal. Under total relativism, both positions are equally valid. The coin is lucky to the person who believes it is, and not lucky to the person who does not. There is no fact beyond these perspectives. Arguing becomes like debating whether vanilla ice cream tastes better than chocolate. It is not a matter of proof, but of preference. Consider politics. Different groups argue about laws, rights, and justice. Normally, you think these debates matter because one side is correct. Total relativism sees them as competing stories with no final referee. A law is only as strong as the group that enforces it. Rights exist because people agree to recognize them. If that agreement fades, the rights vanish. They were never inherent to begin with. Even the idea of fairness is part of the game, not a universal truth. This worldview can feel dizzying. Without a fixed point, everything floats. A person might say murder is wrong, while another says murder is necessary, and both statements are equally true and false. A philosopher might claim truth exists, while another claims truth is an illusion, and neither can win. The very idea of winning or losing collapses. Every position stands on a platform made of sand, and that sand shifts with each new perspective. Imagine looking through a kaleidoscope. The shapes shift every time you turn it. There is no final image to reach, only endless patterns forming and dissolving. Total relativism says reality is like that. What you see depends on where you stand, and there is no outside view to declare one pattern real and another fake. All patterns are appearances, all perspectives are partial, and none hold more weight than the rest. Imagine sitting alone and thinking about what to eat for dinner. It feels like you are making a choice. You weigh options, picture the taste of each meal, and then decide. In the worldview of the simulation of simulations, none of this comes from you. Even your thoughts are not truly yours. They are scripts written ahead of time, running inside an experiment controlled by some external intelligence. You are not a player in the game. You are part of the game itself, a piece of code that believes it is alive. Picture a video game where every character moves and speaks. From your point of view, they seem alive because they respond to events. A villager says hello when you pass. A guard attacks if you break a rule. A merchant bargains for goods. But all of their words and actions come from lines of code. They do not think or feel. They only follow instructions. In this worldview, you are like that villager or guard. When you speak, it is because the script tells you to. When you feel happy or sad, those emotions are part of the program. You have the illusion of free will, but each moment is already written. Imagine taking this idea further. You suspect your entire world is a simulation, but here, even that suspicion is part of the script. When you wonder, am I real? That question was placed in your mind by the external intelligence. The very act of doubting reality is another pre-written step in the experiment. It feels like rebellion, but it is only a different line of code. Even your attempt to resist or uncover the truth was planned long before you existed. Consider a scientist watching ants in a glass colony. The ants move around, carrying food, building tunnels, and interacting. The scientist observes quietly, adjusting the environment, adding food, or changing the temperature. From the ants' view, their world is complete. They do not know someone is watching them. In this worldview, you are like the ant, and the external intelligence is like the scientist. Your entire reality, from the weather outside to the thoughts in your head, is part of their experiment. You cannot see them or their world. You can only experience what they allow you to experience. Now imagine that the simulation you live in contains smaller simulations. Within your world, people build computers and run programs. Those programs might simulate their own miniature realities. The external intelligence could have done the same to you. This means there are many layers, like mirrors reflecting each other endlessly. Your thoughts might be scripts inside a simulation that itself exists inside another simulation. You might never reach the top layer because every time you think you have, you discover it is just another program running inside a larger one. Think about memory. You believe your memories are proof of your past. You remember learning to ride a bike, meeting friends, and growing older. Under this worldview, those memories might not come from real experiences. They could have been inserted into your mind at the moment you needed them, like files loaded into a computer. The memory of falling off your bike as a child may feel vivid and detailed, but it might never have happened. It is only part of the script, designed to give you a sense of history. Imagine a dream so detailed that you cannot tell it apart from waking life. In the dream, you meet people, face challenges, and feel emotions. While you dream, everything feels real. When you wake up, you realize none of it happened. The simulation of simulations suggests you never wake up. Your entire life is that kind of dream, except the dreamer is not you. It is the external intelligence running the program. You are a character inside the dream, not the one dreaming it. This idea changes how you see thought itself. You might sit quietly and reflect, believing you are in control of your mind. Under this worldview, your thoughts arise because the program triggers them. The feeling of deciding to think is itself part of the code. Even creativity, which seems spontaneous, is just a series of pre-written outputs. When an artist paints a masterpiece, it is not because of inspiration. It is because the script required that painting to exist at that exact moment. Consider a conversation between two people. They laugh, argue, and share ideas. It seems like they are influencing each other through words. But under this belief, both sets of words come from the same source. The external intelligence wrote both sides of the dialogue. It is like a playwright writing lines for two characters in a play. The characters think they are independent, but every word they speak was placed there by someone else. Even misunderstandings and surprises are part of the plan. Imagine walking down a street. You see strangers passing by, cars moving, birds flying overhead. It feels like a chaotic, unpredictable world, but from the outside, it might look like perfectly ordered code running smoothly. The external intelligence does not need to control each detail in real time. They only need to set rules and let the simulation play out. To you, the world feels open and full of possibilities. To them, it is a predictable sequence they already know. This worldview also changes how you see emotions. Love, anger, joy, fear. They feel like the most personal parts of you. Under the simulation of simulations, they are not yours at all. They are outputs generated to test reactions or to create certain patterns. If you fall in love, it is not because you freely chose someone or because of shared experiences. It is because the script required that exact relationship to form at that time. If it ends, the heartbreak is also part of the plan. Even grief and comfort are just different lines in the same program. Imagine someone discovering this truth. They realize their thoughts are not real, their choices not their own. They try to fight back. They shout, refuse to act, or even stop speaking, thinking they are resisting. But every move they make was already written. The external intelligence accounted for rebellion and included it in the experiment. From their perspective, there is no difference between obedience and resistance. Both are just patterns of behavior designed to be observed. Think about how this affects the concept of responsibility. Normally, if someone harms another person, you hold them accountable. You believe they chose to act. Under this worldview, the act was just a result of code running. The person did not decide to harm anyone. The external intelligence wrote that outcome into the script. Blame and praise lose meaning because no one has control over what they do. Every action, from heroic sacrifice to cruel violence, is just another sequence in the program. Consider a theater stage with actors performing a play. The audience watches, feeling suspense and emotion. The actors seem to live their roles. But behind the scenes, the script never changes. Every word, every gesture, every outcome is fixed. In this worldview, you are not only an actor, you are also the lines you speak, the movements you make, and the thoughts you believe are yours. The external intelligence is the playwright and the audience combined, watching its own experiment unfold. Imagine now that even the concept of discovering the simulation is part of the simulation. A group of scientists might announce, "We have proof our world is artificial." Their discovery feels groundbreaking, but from above, it is only another scripted event. Even the moment of supposed revelation was pre-written. There is no way to escape, because the act of trying is already inside the experiment. In this way, your entire reality becomes a loop. You think, you question, you resist, you accept. All of it flows from instructions written by something outside you. Even the thought you are having right now, the exact words you are reading, were set in motion long before you were aware of them. The world unfolds like a story already finished, playing back for an unseen observer who wrote every line. Imagine dreaming at night. In the dream, you're walking through a forest. You feel the cool air, hear the crunch of leaves beneath your feet, and see trees stretching into the distance. In the dream, you are a character moving through a world that feels solid and real. But when you wake up, you realize the forest never existed outside your mind. The trees, the air, and even the dream version of you were images created by your sleeping brain. Now imagine this. What if you are both the dreamer and the dream at the same time, even right now? This is the idea of paradoxical selfhood. You are completely real, yet at the same time, completely illusory. Picture looking in a mirror. You see your reflection and think, "That's me." The reflection is not separate from you, but it also isn't you directly. It depends on you standing there to exist. Now imagine that your entire sense of being, the I that thinks, feels, and acts, is like that reflection. It feels independent, as if it has its own solid reality. But it is also a projection, something that appears only because of a deeper, hidden source. You are both the one looking and the image being looked at. Consider a wave rising on the ocean. The wave has a shape and movement of its own. It seems separate from the rest of the water, but in truth, it is nothing but the ocean expressing itself in a temporary form. The ocean is real, and the wave is real too, but the wave's sense of being separate is an illusion. In the same way, you experience yourself as a separate individual. You have thoughts, desires, and a personal story. These feel like solid proof of who you are. But beneath that, you are part of something much larger, like the ocean. Your separate self is both real in experience and unreal in essence. Imagine someone watching a play. On stage, an actor plays a hero who struggles, suffers, and eventually triumphs. The audience feels tension and relief as the story unfolds. At one level, the hero is real to the audience. The events matter as long as the play continues. But the actor knows that when the curtain falls, the hero disappears. Only the actor remains. Now imagine you are both the actor and the audience at once. You are deeply invested in the role, feeling every emotion as if it were life itself. At the same time, you are the one behind it all, watching it happen. Your everyday identity is the role, and your deeper being is the actor. This creates a strange situation. When you stub your toe, you feel pain. The pain is real. You cannot dismiss it as fake. But at the same time, from a larger view, the pain is like a moment in a dream. It rises, is experienced, and then fades away. The paradox is that both views are true at once. You suffer genuinely. Yet the one who suffers is like a character in a story you are telling yourself. The story matters, and it doesn't matter, all in the same breath. Think about your memories. You remember childhood events, a birthday party, a school trip, the smell of a favorite meal. These memories form a thread that makes you feel continuous over time. Without them, you would not feel like the same person. But memories are fragile. They change, fade, or even get replaced by false ones. If they are not fixed, and the self built from them is not fixed either. The paradoxical view says the self is like a cloud. It has a shape for a while, but the shape shifts constantly. Beneath that shifting shape, there is something stable, the awareness that notices the changes. You are the cloud and the sky holding it at the same time. Imagine a video game character. From inside the game, the character moves, fights, and grows stronger. They believe they are making choices, but outside the screen, a player holds the controller. The character and the player are connected, yet they are not the same. Now imagine the player and the character are one being split into two roles. The character's struggles are real within the game. The player's perspective is broader, seeing the whole map at once. Paradoxical selfhood suggests you are both the character and the player. You live through each moment while also existing beyond it, unseen, and unchanging. Consider relationships. When someone says, "I love you," it feels like two separate selves connecting. But if both people are waves in the same ocean, the separation is only part of the appearance. Love becomes the ocean, recognizing itself through different forms. The I and the you are real in experience, but they are also masks worn by the same deeper being. Even conflict fits this pattern. When two people fight, it is like one hand striking the other. The pain is real. But the division is not ultimate. This paradox extends to thought itself. You believe you think thoughts. You say, "I am thinking about dinner," or "I am planning my future." But when you watch closely, thoughts appear on their own. You do not choose them. They rise like clouds in the sky. Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't, but they always come and go. The paradox is that you seem to be the one thinking, yet you are also the space in which thoughts happen. You are both the thinker and the witness of thinking. Imagine a dream in which you meet another person. You talk, laugh, and share stories. During the dream, that person feels completely real. When you wake up, you realize they were part of your own mind all along. Now imagine waking up, not from the dream, but into a deeper understanding of life itself. You see that every person you meet is real, in the same way the dream figure was real, yet also part of the same mind that creates your own sense of self. The boundary between self and other becomes blurry. You are distinct and connected at once. Consider the idea of death. Normally, you think of death as the end of the self. The body stops, and the story ends. From the paradoxical view, death is like the curtain falling at the end of a play. The role disappears, but the actor remains. The deeper being you truly are does not end, because it was never bound by the role to begin with. At the same time, the grief of losing someone is real. You cry, you miss them, you feel the absence. Both the ending and the continuation exist together, like two sides of a single coin. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast lake at dawn. The surface is still, reflecting the sky perfectly. You throw a stone into the water. Ripples spread outward, distorting the reflection. In this image, the still water is your deeper self, unchanging and silent. The ripples are your everyday identity, full of motion and noise. You are the calm water and the moving ripples at once. Without the water, the ripples could not exist. Without the ripples, the water would have no visible form. Even ordinary moments hold this paradox. You sit and drink tea. The warmth of the cup, the taste of the drink, the feeling of being you. All of it is happening. None of it is fake, and yet, like a dream. It is also a passing appearance in a larger field of awareness. The tea, the cup, the you holding it, are both genuine and illusory. There is no need to choose between them. The dreamer and the dream are one and the same, playing both roles without ever truly dividing. Imagine standing in a room with no windows or doors. Someone tells you there is a world outside, filled with people, trees, and sunlight. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. You cannot even prove the room itself is real. Absolute skepticism begins here, with doubt taken to its furthest extreme. It is the refusal to accept anything as true, no matter how convincing it seems. Every claim, every belief, every observation is questioned and rejected. Even the act of skepticism itself is doubted, creating a paradox where nothing can ever be resolved. Consider something simple, like holding an apple. You see its red skin. You feel its weight in your hand. You take a bite and taste its sweetness. These senses seem like proof the apple is real. But absolute skepticism asks, how do you know your senses are reliable? You could be dreaming, or hallucinating, or part of a simulation. Maybe there is no apple at all. Even if you assume the apple exists, how do you know your idea of apple matches anything outside your mind? Perhaps what you call red is not the same as what anyone else calls red. At each step, the certainty slips away. This doubt extends to memory. You believe you had breakfast this morning. You remember pouring coffee and eating toast. But how do you know that memory is accurate? Maybe it was created just now, a false impression planted in your mind. You cannot check it against the past because the past is gone. You only have the memory itself, and that memory might be wrong. If memories can be false, then your entire sense of identity becomes unstable. The story you tell yourself about who you are might be nothing more than a collection of errors. Even reason itself becomes suspect. Normally, you rely on logic to sort truth from falsehood. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. This feels unshakable. But absolute skepticism asks why you trust logic in the first place. Perhaps logic only seems reliable because you have been trained to think that way. Maybe there is no ultimate reason the rules of logic should hold. If they could fail, then every argument, even the argument for skepticism, collapses into uncertainty. Imagine walking through a marketplace where everyone is shouting different claims. One person says a certain God is real. Another says there is no God. A third says reality itself is an illusion. You try to figure out who is right. Absolute skepticism says you cannot know. Each claim could be false. Even your own process of judging them could be flawed. In the end, you cannot even be sure you heard the claims correctly. Maybe there was no marketplace at all. Every step of the process is open to doubt. This leads to a strange problem when you try to apply skepticism to skepticism itself. You say, "I doubt everything." But then you must also doubt that statement. If you doubt your own doubt, does that mean you actually believe something? If you decide you do not believe in belief, that decision becomes another belief to question. It is like a snake eating its own tail. The more you doubt, the more you are forced to doubt the act of doubting. The process never ends. It spirals inward without reaching a conclusion. Consider a person who refuses to trust their senses. They see a tree outside their window, but tell themselves, perhaps there is no tree, perhaps there is no window, perhaps there is no me. At first, this feels like a careful, rational stance, but soon they must question the thought itself. Maybe the doubt was an illusion too. If you cannot even trust the act of doubting, what remains? The person is left in a space where they cannot move forward or backward. Every step dissolves beneath them. This worldview changes how you think about action. Imagine you are deciding whether to cross a bridge. Under normal thinking, you check if the bridge looks stable. You remember crossing similar bridges before. You trust the laws of physics to keep it standing. But if you accept absolute skepticism, none of that is certain. The bridge might not exist. Your memories might be false. The laws of physics might not apply. Even the decision-making process itself could be an illusion. Whether you step forward or stay put, you cannot say why. You are acting in a fog with no landmarks. This creates tension when dealing with other people. Suppose a friend tells you they care about you. Their words seem sincere. You might feel love or comfort in response. But absolute skepticism asks how you know their feelings are real. Maybe they are lying. Maybe they are not even a real person. Perhaps your perception of them is a dream or a program running in your mind. Even if they are genuine, how do you know what care really means? The concept itself might be empty. Trust becomes impossible because every sign of trustworthiness can be doubted. Consider science. Scientists build theories by testing evidence and repeating experiments. Normally, this process feels reliable. Absolute skepticism strips that away. The data could be false. The instruments could be faulty. The very concept of measurement might have no basis. Even if the results seem consistent, how do you know consistency itself is meaningful? A lab might test the same sample 1,000 times and get the same number. That does not prove the number reflects reality. It only proves the testing process produces repetition. The link between data and truth can never be confirmed. Imagine trying to prove you exist. You might start with the famous statement, "I think, therefore I am." But even here, doubt seeps in. What if the thought itself is an illusion? Maybe there is no I behind it. Maybe there is only the appearance of thought, like a sound echoing in an empty room. If you cannot be sure there is a thinker, you cannot be sure of existence itself. Even the act of saying, "I doubt," could be just another part of the illusion, with no real doubter behind it. This leads to a strange kind of silence. If every statement can be questioned, what can you say? You might declare, "Nothing is true," but then you must doubt that statement as well. Perhaps something is true after all, but you cannot know it. Even silence becomes uncertain. If you choose not to speak, maybe that choice was meaningless too. You cannot escape by talking or by remaining quiet. Both paths dissolve into the same mist of doubt. Consider a painter working on a canvas. They believe they are creating a landscape. Under absolute skepticism, they must question the paint, the canvas, and even their own hand. Maybe there is no painting at all. Maybe the act of painting is just another illusion. If they stop painting, that decision must also be doubted. Whether they create or destroy, act or rest, nothing can be confirmed as real. Even simple feelings fall under suspicion. Hunger feels immediate and undeniable. Your stomach growls, and you crave food. But how do you know the hunger is real? Maybe it is just a sensation with no cause. Maybe there is no stomach, no food, no body at all. The experience exists, but you cannot prove what it connects to. Even the word hunger might not mean anything. It could just be a noise in the mind. Imagine walking through fog so thick you cannot see your own hands. You take a step, then doubt whether you moved. You hear a sound, then doubt whether it was real. The fog never clears. Each moment feels solid, but when you reach for it, it vanishes. Absolute skepticism is like this fog. It questions every path until no direction remains. Even the fog itself becomes uncertain. Perhaps there is no fog. Perhaps there is nothing at all. Or perhaps there is something, but you will never know because even the knowing cannot be trusted. Imagine pain that never ends. The infinite suffering hypothesis begins with this idea and stretches it across all of existence. It suggests that suffering is not only common, but eternal, repeating without limit across infinite timelines. Every life that has ever experienced pain will experience it again in some form forever. There is no final release, no point at which the cycle stops. Even death offers no escape, because somewhere, in some other timeline, the suffering continues. Consider a single moment of agony. A person stubs their toe on a stone and cries out. In an ordinary view of the world, the pain is temporary. It fades as time passes. But if there are infinite versions of reality, then there are infinite versions of that same moment. Somewhere, a person stubs their toe at this exact instant. Somewhere else, another version of them does the same thing a second later. The event repeats endlessly, like a looped recording playing in countless rooms at once. Even as one version recovers, another version begins, and another after that, without end. Extend this idea to greater forms of suffering. Imagine a child, lost and alone, afraid and crying. In one timeline, someone finds them and brings them home. In another, no one comes. In yet another, their fear deepens into despair. Across infinite timelines, every possible outcome occurs, including the worst ones, over and over. Even when relief happens in one branch, another branch contains only ongoing pain. There is no final version of the story where suffering disappears entirely. For every rescue, there is another loss. For every healing, another wound remains open. Consider war. In one world, a battle ends quickly and peace returns. In another, the fighting drags on for years. In yet another, the war never ends at all. Soldiers die, families grieve, and cities burn endlessly. Each version is real for the people inside it. From the outside, across infinite timelines, there is always a war happening somewhere. Even if peace comes to one place, destruction rises in another. The cycle has no stopping point. It is like a fire that keeps spreading, even as some flames die down. This idea also changes how you see personal suffering. Imagine a person who feels trapped in deep depression. In their life, they might recover through therapy, medicine, or time, but in an infinite set of timelines, there are countless versions of them who never recover. Some sink deeper into despair, others end their lives. Even if one version finds happiness, another remains lost. The total picture always includes endless suffering. No matter how much progress occurs in one branch, another branch preserves the pain forever. Now, think about the scale of infinity. If the universe contains infinite timelines, then every possible form of suffering not only happens, but happens endlessly. Somewhere, someone is always experiencing the worst thing you can imagine. A person is drowning in fear, hunger, or grief at every instant. As one individual's suffering ends, another's begins, so there is never a moment of total peace. It is like a vast orchestra playing a piece made entirely of discord. One note fades, but another rises to take its place, and the music never stops. This view raises questions about meaning. People often try to find purpose in pain. They say suffering teaches lessons or builds strength. In the infinite suffering hypothesis, these ideas crumble. Even if one person grows stronger, another person is trapped in agony without growth or reward. Somewhere, pain serves no function at all. It simply exists, raw and unending. If you try to explain suffering as part of a greater good, another timeline instantly cancels that explanation by containing only harm with no balance. Consider a person who sacrifices their life to save others. In their world, their act brings hope and healing, but in another timeline, their sacrifice fails. In another, no one notices it. In yet another, their effort makes things worse. Across infinity, every version of the event plays out, including ones where the suffering grows. For every act of heroism, there is a version where that hero never appears and the pain spreads unchecked. The balance never resolves because every outcome exists forever. Imagine walking through a hall filled with mirrors. In each mirror, you see a different version of yourself. Some are smiling, some are crying, some are screaming. No matter which way you turn, another reflection appears. You cannot reach the real you because there is no single original image. The suffering in one reflection might stop, but in another it continues. Even if you turn away from one mirror, countless others remain. This is how suffering spreads across infinite timelines. You cannot step outside of it because there is always another version of you or someone else still trapped inside the pain. This worldview also affects how you see hope. Normally, you hope for a better future. You believe pain can be reduced, even if only slowly. Under the infinite suffering hypothesis, hope itself becomes a local phenomenon. In one timeline, things improve. In another, they stay the same. In yet another, they get worse. Improvement is never final because somewhere the suffering never ends. Even if you create a perfect world in one branch of reality, countless imperfect worlds continue alongside it. Your efforts matter locally, but cannot touch the whole. Consider the idea of heaven or ultimate peace. Many religions promise an end to suffering after death. But if there are infinite timelines, there are also infinite deaths and infinite afterlives. For every person who reaches peace, another does not. Some might reach torment instead. Some might be reborn into a life of even greater pain. The balance never tips completely toward relief. The eternal recurrence of suffering guarantees that at no point does every being escape. The system never closes, and no final resolution appears. Imagine a single moment of extreme agony, a soldier trapped under rubble, a parent losing a child, an animal hunted and terrified. In ordinary thinking, you might take comfort in the idea that the moment will pass. Time moves forward, the pain will fade, and peace will return. Under this hypothesis, that moment never truly disappears. It exists somewhere, always, in some branch of reality. Even as one version of the soldier is rescued, another version remains trapped forever. For every healed wound, there is another that stays open. For every ending, another beginning of pain waits. This view changes how you see happiness, too. If suffering is infinite, then joy becomes fragile. Your happiest moment exists, but so does an infinite number of timelines where that moment never happens. Somewhere, the joy is canceled, reversed, or erased. Happiness is local, temporary, and surrounded by endless suffering. No matter how much good you create, there will always be a version of reality where that good is undone or never appears. Imagine a spinning wheel with countless spokes. Each spoke represents a different timeline. As the wheel turns, some spokes rise while others fall. From your view on one spoke, you might climb upward into relief and peace. But as you rise, another spoke dips downward into despair. The wheel never stops turning, and there is no point where all spokes rise at once. The motion is endless, and so is the distribution of suffering. Even your own escape is incomplete. If you find happiness or relief, that only affects the version of you in this timeline. In another branch, you are still in pain. In yet another, you have not even begun to suffer yet. There is no single you to rescue. Each branch contains its own version, and somewhere, that version is always trapped. Your relief is real, but it is never final. In this way, the infinite suffering hypothesis paints a picture of existence where pain is not a phase to be overcome, but a constant feature of reality itself. For every ending you witness, countless beginnings occur elsewhere. For every moment of peace, another moment of torment rises. The cycle has no first cause and no final stop. It stretches across all timelines, filling the infinite with endless echoes of suffering that never fully fade. Imagine you wake up in the morning, stretch, and walk to the kitchen. You pour a cup of coffee, sit down, and sip it slowly. It feels like a choice, like you decided to do these things. But what if none of it was a choice at all? What if every single thing you do is the result, a loop that has been running forever? This is the idea of fatalistic recursion. It says that every action, thought, and word is only the latest turn of an endless cycle. You are not making decisions. You are playing out a script that has been run countless times before. Think about a line of dominoes. When you push the first one, the rest fall in a set order. You can pause between falls. You can even watch them closely, but the outcome is fixed. You cannot unfall a domino. In fatalistic recursion, life works the same way. The first domino fell long before you were born. Maybe it fell at the start of the universe. Maybe there was no start at all. Every moment since has followed from that first push. When you speak, when you blink, when you laugh, those actions are the next dominoes falling. The feeling that you chose to speak or laugh is part of the pattern too. It was built into the chain from the very start. Picture a video game character. The player presses a button and the character jumps. Inside the game, the character might think, "I decided to jump." But the truth is, the code made it happen. The code was written long before the jump. The character's thoughts are just more lines of code running. In this view, you are like that character. The player is not another being outside the world, but the loop itself. The loop generates you, your memories, and even your belief in free will. You believe you are making choices, but that belief is another line of code. Consider this in your daily life. You decide to go for a walk. It feels like you weighed the pros and cons and then made a choice. But in fatalistic recursion, the moment you thought about walking, the outcome was already set. You were always going to get up, put on your shoes, and leave. If you stop and think, "I could stay home instead," that thought is also part of the loop. The loop includes your hesitation, your doubts, and your final action. Even trying to rebel against the loop is just another step in it. If you shout, "I am free," the loop made you shout. This idea can be hard to accept. It makes life seem like a movie playing on repeat. Imagine watching a film you love. You might feel tense when the hero faces danger, but deep down, you know how it ends. The same scenes play every time. In Fatalistic Recursion, your life is that film. The first time you laughed as a child, the first time you fell in love, the last breath you will take, all of it has happened before, endlessly. It is not just that it was predictable. It has literally already played out, and you are watching it unfold again. Some people find this thought depressing. They feel trapped, like puppets on strings. Others find comfort in it. If everything is set, there are no wrong choices. You cannot ruin your life, because you cannot do anything but what the loop dictates. Imagine you spill your coffee on your shirt before a job interview. You might panic and think, "This will ruin everything." But if the loop is real, the spill was always part of the pattern. The job interview was always going to go the way it did, no matter how much you worry. You are free from blame, but you are also free from credit. Your successes are as fixed as your failures. Think about history through this lens. Wars, inventions, revolutions. They seem like products of chance and human will. But if the loop is infinite, every war was inevitable. Every invention was destined to appear at the exact moment it did. You can think of the entire past as one giant machine turning its gears. Each event is a gear tooth locking into place. The machine cannot jam. It cannot speed up or slow down. It only moves as it must. There is also the strange thought that if the loop has no start, there was never a first event. Imagine a circle with no break. You can trace your finger around it forever and never find a beginning. This means there was no first cause. There was never a time before the loop. It has always been. In that case, you are not just a product of past actions. You are part of an endless present. When you speak, you are echoing words you have spoken before, in other cycles, perhaps infinitely many times. The future you imagine is not new either. It is the same future playing again. You can test this idea in small ways. Watch how your habits repeat. You wake up, brush your teeth, check your phone. These actions feel automatic. But look closer and see how even your big decisions are patterns too. Maybe you always date the same type of person or quit jobs for the same reason. Even when you think you are changing, you might just be looping through a slightly different version of the same path. Scale this up to the whole universe, and you see how everything might be looping forever. Now think about memory. You remember your past, but you do not remember future events. In Fatalistic Recursion, this is just how the loop works. A memory is a record of previous steps, but those steps are not gone. They are still happening somewhere in the loop. Your lack of memory of the future does not mean it is not fixed. It only means you are looking in one direction. A goldfish in a bowl cannot see outside the glass, but the room still exists. You cannot see beyond the present moment, but the rest of the loop is there, already set. Even random events fit into this view. A coin toss feels random, but the outcome depends on countless small factors. The force of your thumb, the air currents, the weight of the coin. If you knew every detail, you could predict the result. In a looped universe, there is no true randomness. The toss was always going to land the way it did. Even quantum events, which seem uncertain, are just another layer of the loop. They follow rules you cannot see, but the loop sees them all. You might wonder what this means for meaning itself. If everything repeats, does anything matter? Imagine a song you love. You play it again and again. The notes never change, but you still enjoy it. In the same way, your life might be meaningful, even if it repeats. The laughter, the pain, the love, they are the notes of the song. The fact that they are fixed does not make them less real. They are the only notes there are. Imagine a small village where everyone lives in peace. One day, a group of elders decides they need rules to guide people. They meet and agree on what they believe is good. They say that helping your neighbor is good, stealing is bad, and lying is forbidden. At first, this feels like progress. People now have a shared idea of how to live. But the moment they define what is good, they also create its shadow. If helping is good, then refusing to help becomes bad. If honesty is good, lying becomes evil. A line is drawn, and on the other side of that line is now a group of people to be feared, punished, or even destroyed. This is the root of the anti-ethic, the idea that every moral system, no matter how noble it seems, breeds conflict and harm by the very act of defining goodness. When you declare something good, you don't just describe it, you set a boundary. That boundary divides the world into those who live by your rules and those who do not. This division creates tension. Imagine two neighboring villages. One believes generosity is the highest virtue. The other values strength and survival above all. Each group looks at the other and sees not just difference, but wrongness. The first village says, "They are cruel and selfish." The second says, "They are weak and foolish." Soon, both sides feel justified in opposing the other. What began as a simple set of rules to guide behavior now fuels hatred. The clash was inevitable from the moment either group named their idea of good. History is full of these clashes. Every empire, every religion, every political movement begins with a moral claim. A leader or prophet declares, "This is the right way to live." People gather around this idea. It brings order, shared purpose, and a sense of identity. But it also creates outsiders. Those who reject the idea are not just different, they are wrong. Once someone is seen as wrong, it becomes easier to treat them as less than human. Wars are fought, people are enslaved or killed, and destruction spreads. The very systems meant to create harmony instead create their own form of evil. Consider a simple example. A family teaches their children that telling the truth is the most important value. A child lies about breaking a vase. The parents punish the child harshly. They believe they are defending truth, but their act of punishment might cause harm greater than the lie itself. The child may grow fearful or resentful. In defending good, the parents create suffering. This small story mirrors what happens on a larger scale in societies. A government might outlaw certain behaviors to protect its vision of good. Those who disobey are imprisoned, exiled, or worse. The state justifies these acts by saying they are necessary to defend morality. Yet, in doing so, it often causes far more harm than the acts it set out to stop. The problem is not with any single rule. The problem lies in the act of defining good in absolute terms. Once you create an absolute, you create its opposite. If peace is absolute good, then conflict becomes absolute evil. But life is never so simple. Conflict can bring change. Even lying can protect someone from harm. When a system refuses to see this complexity, it turns rigid. It cannot adapt. Those inside the system feel trapped by rules that no longer fit the reality around them. Those outside feel attacked and push back. The cycle feeds on itself. Religious history shows this clearly. A faith begins with teachings meant to guide people toward a better life. Over time, these teachings harden into dogma. Different groups interpret the same texts in different ways. Each claims to hold the true path. Violence follows. Wars of religion are fought, not because people hate each other as individuals, but because their moral systems cannot coexist. Each side believes the other must be stopped to preserve good in the world. This belief justifies cruelty. Burning a village, enslaving a population, or silencing a voice becomes a holy act. The good becomes a weapon. The anti-ethics suggests that this pattern is not a mistake or a corruption of morality. It is built into the very structure of moral thinking. The moment you say, "This is right," you imply that something else is wrong. People who do the wrong thing must be opposed. This opposition turns violent when the stakes are high enough. Even a system built on kindness can become harsh. Imagine a movement devoted to compassion. At first, they work to relieve suffering, but soon, they notice that some people resist their message. They begin to see these resistors as obstacles to compassion itself. The movement starts to force people to comply, believing it is for their own good. In trying to spread kindness, they create coercion. Political ideologies work the same way. One group might fight for freedom. Another fights for equality. Each sees its goal as good. When these goals clash, both sides see the other as evil. The fight becomes not just about policy, but about identity. To defeat the enemy becomes a moral duty. This is why revolutions often end in tyranny. The new rulers claim to embody the good, but in defending it, they repeat the same patterns of oppression they once opposed. This does not mean people should live without values. It means that values must be held lightly, with the knowledge that they can harm as well as help. The anti-ethic warns against believing that any moral system is final or perfect. The danger lies in thinking, "We have found the truth, and all who disagree must be corrected or destroyed." When that thought takes hold, destruction follows, even when the original aim was noble. Imagine a society without fixed moral rules. Instead of declaring, "This is good, that is evil," people respond to situations as they arise. They look at the effects of actions rather than judging them through abstract categories. If helping someone today creates harm tomorrow, they adjust. They do not cling to a fixed idea of virtue. This kind of flexibility is rare because humans crave certainty. We want to believe there is a clear map of right and wrong. Without that map, we feel lost. Yet the map itself often leads us into conflict. The anti-ethic also explains why compromise is so difficult. When two moral systems clash, each side sees itself as protecting good. To compromise feels like betraying good itself. If you believe lying is evil, how can you accept even a little dishonesty? If you believe your way of life is sacred, how can you allow another way to exist beside it? This is why many conflicts seem endless. Each side fights not just for land or resources, but for the soul of the world as they see it. Even within a single person, the anti-ethic plays out. You might hold yourself to a standard of what you think is good. When you fall short, you judge yourself harshly. This inner division creates shame and self-hatred. The battle between good and evil is not only external. It rages inside each individual. In trying to be good, you may harm yourself. The paradox is clear. We create evil in our very attempt to define and defend good. The anti-ethic is not a call to abandon care or compassion. It is a reminder that every moral system carries within it the seed of its opposite. The moment you name good, you summon evil into the world. You sit in a room and look at a chair. You think, "That is a chair." The moment you name it, you stop seeing it as it truly is. The shape, the texture, the color, the small scratches on its surface, all of this is reduced to one simple word: chair. This word is useful. It lets you talk about the object, ask for it, move it, or describe it to someone else. But it also limits you. You no longer experience the thing itself. You experience your idea of it. In this way, thought acts as a prison. It gives you tools to navigate life, but it also traps you inside its walls. Language works by cutting the world into pieces. You have words for tree, sky, water, and stone. You have words for happiness, anger, love, and fear. These labels create a sense of order. Without them, life would feel chaotic and confusing, but the order is artificial. Nature does not have sharp boundaries. The sky does not stop at a clear line where space begins. A tree is not truly separate from the soil, the air, or the sunlight that feeds it. When you use the word tree, you act as if it is a separate thing. This makes it easier to think about, but it is not the full truth. The label hides the connections. Imagine two people standing by a river. One says, "The river is calm today." The other replies, "No, the river is dangerous." They are both talking about the same flowing water, yet their words shape their experience. The first sees peace and beauty. The second sees risk and threat. The river itself does not change. Only the concepts change. In this way, language builds a world inside your mind, a world made of symbols and meanings. You live inside this constructed world, believing it is reality, while the actual world remains beyond your grasp. Thought works like a map. A map shows roads, rivers, and cities. It helps you travel, but it is not the land itself. You cannot walk on a map or drink water from a blue line printed on paper. When you mistake the map for the territory, you get lost. In the same way, when you mistake your thoughts for reality, you live in illusion. You think you understand life, but what you understand are only your mental representations. The real world is always more vast and complex than your ideas about it. This prison of thought becomes clear when you try to describe something deeply personal. Imagine tasting a new fruit for the first time. The flavor is rich, unlike anything you have ever known. You try to tell a friend about it. You say it is sweet, tangy, and smooth, but these words fail to capture the full experience. Your friend imagines a taste based on their own memories of sweetness and tanginess. They will never know the exact sensation you had. Language cannot carry the full reality. It can only point toward it. The more you try to explain, the more you see the gap between words and truth. Even your sense of self is shaped by concepts. From childhood, you are given a name. You are told, "This is who you are." You learn to see yourself as separate from others. You build an identity made of memories, beliefs, and roles. Student, worker, friend, parent. These roles help you function in society, but they also limit you. They are like masks you wear. Over time, you forget you are wearing them. You think the mask is your true face. If someone criticizes you, you feel pain, as if they attacked your very being. Yet what they attacked is only an idea, a story you tell about yourself. Thought shapes not only how you see the world, but also what you can imagine. Consider how different languages divide color. In English, there is one word for blue. In some languages, there are separate words for light blue and dark blue, treating them as entirely different colors. Speakers of those languages actually perceive the shades differently. Their thought patterns guide their perception. This shows how deeply language can shape even basic sensory experience. You think you are seeing reality directly, but you are seeing it through a filter made of words and concepts. When you try to think about something beyond language, you hit a wall. Consider the idea of infinity. You can say the word, but you cannot truly picture endlessness. Your mind creates a symbol for it, perhaps an image of a line going on forever, but the actual reality of infinity cannot fit into thought. The same is true for ideas like nothingness, eternity, or the totality of the universe. You can speak about them, but what you speak about are only shadows. The real thing remains beyond reach. This is why some philosophers and mystics warn against over-reliance on thought. They say that the deepest truths cannot be spoken. Imagine a person who has never seen the ocean. You could describe it to them with words. You could talk about the color of the water, the sound of the waves, the smell of salt in the air. But no matter how detailed your description, it will never equal standing on the shore and seeing the ocean with their own eyes. Direct experience is different from conceptual knowledge. Thought can only point toward it, never replace it. Meditation practices often aim to quiet thought. When the constant stream of inner words slows, you may catch glimpses of raw perception. In these moments, you see things as they are, without naming them. A tree is no longer tree. It is simply what it is, beyond description. These moments are brief and fragile. As soon as you think about them, you fall back into the prison. You might think, I am having a profound experience. That thought becomes another layer of separation between you and reality. The prison of thought can also be seen in conflict. Two people argue about politics, religion, or philosophy. Each side believes their position is the truth. But what they are really fighting over are different sets of concepts. The actual world is too complex for either view to capture. If they could step outside of thought, even for a moment, they might see that their conflict is built on words. Without the words, there would be only the living reality, which is beyond division. Even science, which seeks to understand the world, relies on concepts. A scientist studies an atom. They use models and equations to describe it. These tools are incredibly useful, but they are still representations. The atom itself is not a model or an equation. It simply is. When theories change, the underlying reality does not. This shows that even the most precise language is still part of the prison. It can bring you closer to the truth, but it can never fully escape its limits. Sometimes the prison becomes visible when thought contradicts itself. Consider the concept of time. You think of past, present, and future as separate. You imagine time flowing like a river. But physics shows that this picture is incomplete. The true nature of time is more complex than your everyday concepts can capture. You live by the clock, yet the clock is only a tool. The actual reality of time remains hidden, beyond thought's reach. This does not mean thought is useless. It is a powerful survival tool. Without it, you could not plan, build, or communicate. But when you mistake it for reality itself, you suffer. You cling to labels and stories. You fight over ideas. You feel trapped by your own mind. The walls of the prison are built from the very thoughts you trust to guide you. To see this clearly is the first step toward glimpsing what lies beyond the walls, even if you can never fully describe it. ... You open your eyes in the morning and see the ceiling above you. You feel the sheets on your skin and hear the sound of traffic outside. These seem like solid facts. The ceiling is there, whether you notice it or not. The sheets exist. The cars exist. But imagine if all of this holds together only because you believe it does. The moment you stop believing, it would fade like a dream when you wake. This is the idea of negative idealism. It says that the world is not an independent structure. It is a fragile construction sustained by your belief. Without that belief, there is nothing. Think about a dream. While you sleep, the dream feels real. You walk down a street, talk to people, and taste food. You do not question it while you are inside it. Then you wake up, and the dream dissolves. You realize that none of it was there. The people, the street, the food, they existed only in your mind. Now imagine that waking life works the same way. The world you move through each day is like an ongoing dream. The difference is that you share it with others who also believe. The combined belief of many minds gives it stability. As long as everyone agrees it is real, it holds together. If you were to withdraw your belief, even a little, cracks would begin to form. Consider a child's imaginary friend. To the child, The friend is as real as anyone else. The child talks to it, plays with it, even sets a place for it at the table. The parents see nothing. From their point of view, there is only empty space. As the child grows older, they stop believing. One day, they look at the same spot where the friend used to sit and see nothing. The friend does not die or leave. It simply dissolves because the belief that sustained it is gone. Negative idealism says that everything you experience is like that imaginary friend. The difference is that you never stopped believing in it, so it has never vanished. Take a simple object, like a rock. You pick it up and feel its weight in your hand. You think, this is solid, this is real. But what gives it that reality? Your senses give you data, color, texture, weight. Your mind turns this data into the concept of rock. You believe in that concept without question. If you were to stop believing, not just intellectually, but completely, the rock would cease to exist for you. This is not the same as ignoring it. Ignoring means you still believe it is there, but choose not to pay attention. True disbelief would erase it, like closing a program on a computer. The screen goes blank, and there is nothing left. This idea can seem strange, but you already experience small hints of it. When you misplace your keys, you might search frantically, convinced they are lost. Then you find them sitting in plain sight on the table. You look back and realize you had looked at that spot several times without seeing them. Your mind filtered them out because it did not believe they were there. For a moment, they did not exist in your reality. The same thing happens when you read a book and become so absorbed that you forget the room around you. The world fades, and the story feels more real than the chair you are sitting in. Belief shifts, and with it, reality shifts. Negative idealism takes this further. It says that what you call the external world is nothing but a vast network of shared beliefs. You believe in the sun rising, in gravity pulling objects down, in the continuity of time. You believe in the faces of friends, the voices of loved ones, the streets of your city. These beliefs are so deep that you rarely notice them. They form the background of every thought. If you could peel them away, even for a moment, the structure would collapse. The sun would not rise. The streets would vanish. Even your own body might dissolve, because you believe in its boundaries and functions, just as you believe in everything else. Think about how culture reinforces this shared belief. A flag is just cloth with colored patterns. Yet to someone raised under that flag, it represents a nation, a people, an identity worth dying for. If you show the same cloth to someone from a different culture, they might see only fabric. The meaning is not in the object, it is in the belief. Scale this up, and you see how entire societies build their worlds from shared concepts. Money, laws, and borders are examples. None of them have physical reality apart from belief. A dollar bill is paper and ink. Its power comes from collective agreement that it represents value. If everyone stopped believing in it, it would become trash overnight. Even your sense of self depends on belief. You believe you are a particular person with a name, a history, and a future. You remember past events and assume they define you. But those memories are mental images and stories. They hold together because you believe they form a continuous self. In deep meditation or altered states of consciousness, people sometimes experience the loss of this belief. For a brief moment, the self dissolves. There is still awareness, but no I attached to it. When belief returns, the self reappears, just like the dream world returns when you fall asleep again. Negative idealism also explains why different people can experience the same event in completely different ways. Imagine a crowded street corner where a loud crash occurs. One person believes it was a car accident. Another believes it was a gunshot. A third thinks it was fireworks. Each person's belief shapes what they see and hear. Their realities diverge, even though they share the same space. If this can happen on a small scale, why not on a larger one? Entire groups may live in overlapping but distinct realities, each sustained by its own set of beliefs. There is a frightening implication here. If you stopped believing in everything at once, the entire world would vanish. It would not crumble like a building falling apart. It would simply cease to appear, as if it had never been. Imagine standing in a room and letting go of your belief in the walls. At first, they might seem to shimmer, like heat waves on asphalt. Then they would fade. Soon there would be no walls, no floor, no ceiling, not even a body to stand in. There would only be awareness without form. From this view, existence itself is not solid. It is a projection, like light on a screen, powered by the projector of belief. Skeptics might argue that if you stop believing in gravity, you will not float away. They say the physical world is independent of thought, but even this argument relies on belief. You believe in the concept of independence. You believe in the consistency of physical laws. You believe that other people have minds like yours. These are assumptions you cannot prove directly. They are beliefs so deep that you mistake them for facts. Negative idealism points out that you have never experienced a world apart from belief, so you cannot know what would remain without it. Consider how fear works in this framework. When you fear something, you invest belief in it. You give it strength and solidity. A shadow in a dark alley might make your heart race because you believe it hides danger. If you knew with absolute certainty that there was no threat, the shadow would lose all power. Now imagine withdrawing belief from everything, not just shadows. Without belief, nothing can threaten you. Nothing can comfort you either. The entire game of hope and fear dissolves. In this view, existence is fragile. It is a story you tell yourself, reinforced by the stories of others. The moment the telling stops, the story ends. The stage goes dark, and there is no audience, no actors, no play, only the silence that was there all along, waiting beneath belief. You wake up and the first thing you think is, I am me. You might remember your name, where you live, and what you need to do today. These thoughts feel natural. They form a picture of who you are. But what if none of this is true? What if there is no you at all, not even a core self beneath the surface? Radical anti-identity says that everything you take to be yourself, your memories, your feelings, your desires, is a fabrication. There is no stable person holding it all together. There is only a stream of appearances pretending to be someone real. Think about memory. You believe you remember your childhood, past relationships, the first time you felt pain or joy. These memories seem like proof that you have lived a continuous life. But research shows that memory is unreliable. People recall events that never happened. They mix up timelines and details. A photograph or a story told by someone else can change what you think you remember. If memories can be shaped this easily, how do you know any of them are real? Radical anti-identity takes this further. It says all memories are false. They are like scenes from a movie that you play in your mind. The movie feels familiar, but you never acted in it. The character you think of as me is just part of the script. Consider a dream. While dreaming, you might believe you are running from danger or talking to a friend. You accept the dream world as real until you wake. Then you see it was an illusion. Now imagine that waking life is no different. The people you meet, the places you go, even the thoughts you have are like dream images. They appear and disappear. You tell yourself they belong to you, but there is no you for them to belong to. When you wake from this illusion, if waking is even possible, you realize there was never a dreamer, only the dream itself. Feelings seem more immediate than memories. You feel hunger, sadness, love, or anger, and it seems obvious these feelings come from you. But look closer. A feeling rises and fades like a wave in the ocean. It has no lasting substance. You might feel angry one moment and calm the next. If there were a stable self, it would not change so easily. Feelings do not prove you exist. They only show that sensations happen. When a breeze passes through a tree, the leaves move. The movement does not belong to the tree. In the same way, feelings do not belong to a self. They just occur. Think about how you build an identity. From birth, you are given a name. People tell you, you are this person. You are part of this family. You like these things. You are good at this, bad at that. Over time, you absorb these messages and create a story. You collect labels: student, worker, friend, parent, artist, leader. Each label seems to describe some truth about you, but these labels are just words. They are useful for conversation, not for reviewing reality. Without the labels, what remains? Radical anti-identity says nothing remains. The self is not hidden behind the roles. The roles are all there is. Consider how this works in everyday life. You meet someone for the first time. You act in a certain way, maybe polite or reserved. Later, with close friends, you act differently, more relaxed, maybe louder. Which version is the real you? If you were truly one stable person, you would not shift so easily between roles. The truth is that both versions are performances. Even when you are alone, you are still performing, telling yourself the story of who you are. There is no actor behind the mask. There are only masks switching places. Imagine a river flowing. The water moves constantly. You cannot point to one part and say, "This is the river." The river is the movement itself. Now apply this to the self. Thoughts, feelings, and memories flow like water. They change every moment. There is no solid thing beneath them. When you say, "I am this person," you are like someone trying to grab the river with their hands. The moment you touch it, it slips away. The river exists as a process, not as a fixed object. The self is the same, only a process, never a thing. Language traps you in this illusion. The very word "I" suggests a center that does not exist. When you say, "I am happy," you link a passing feeling to a permanent self. Without that link, there would only be happiness, rising and falling. The word creates the illusion of ownership. It turns impersonal events into my experiences. This is why the sense of self feels so natural. It is built into the way you speak and think. You cannot imagine life without it because every thought reinforces it. Consider how this illusion shows up in conflict. Someone insults you. You feel hurt because you believe they attacked you. But what did they attack? They spoke words. Those words struck a story in your mind, the story of who you think you are. If there were no story, there would be nothing to harm. This is why insults can feel devastating, while physical pain fades quickly. The body heals on its own. But the self clings to the wound because it is built from wounds and praises, victories and failures. Take away these stories, and the self has nothing to hold on to. Even the body does not prove you exist. Look at your hand. Cells die and are replaced every day. After several years, nearly every cell in your body has been replaced. The physical structure you call me is constantly changing. If the self were tied to the body, you would disappear with each change. Yet you believe you remain the same person. This belief comes from memory and narrative, not from anything solid. The body, like the mind, is a shifting process. Some might argue that even if the self is an illusion, there must be a witness behind it all, a pure observer watching the flow of thoughts and sensations. But radical anti-identity denies this too. There is no hidden watcher. The sense of being an observer is just another thought. When you think, "I am aware of this moment," that awareness becomes part of the story. It feels deep and stable, but it is as empty as any other experience. There is no final anchor, only layers of illusion stacked on one another. This perspective can be unsettling. It challenges everything you take for granted, but it also explains why identity feels fragile. You work hard to maintain a certain image. You want others to see you as successful, kind, intelligent, or strong. When someone challenges that image, you feel shaken. This happens because the image was never real to begin with. You are defending a phantom. No matter how much you protect it, it will always slip through your fingers. Consider the way people reinvent themselves. Someone might change careers, move to a new city, or adopt a new name. They might say, "I have found my true self." Yet a few years later, they change again. If there were a true self, it would not shift like this. What changes is the story. One chapter ends, another begins. The character may seem consistent, but only because you keep reading the book in order. If you tore out the pages and scattered them, the illusion of continuity would vanish. Radical anti-identity asks you to see that there was never a book, never a character, never a reader. There were only words appearing on a page, dissolving as soon as they were read. Your life is like that, a series of fleeting appearances, each pretending to belong to someone who does not exist. When you stop believing in the story, you see that there was never a self to defend, never a person to be saved or lost, only the shifting play of experiences passing through empty space. You wake up in the morning and take a deep breath. The room looks familiar, the air feels the same, and the day stretches ahead of you. You think you are making choices as you go, but what if everything you do today has already happened before? Eternal return is the idea that every single moment repeats endlessly, in perfect detail, forever. You are not just reliving general patterns. You are living this exact life, this exact second, again and again, without change. It has already happened infinite times, and it will happen infinite times again. Imagine walking the path through the woods. You notice a fallen tree, a patch of sunlight on the ground, and a bird calling in the distance. In the theory of eternal return, this walk is not unique. You have walked this path before in the exact same way. The same bird made the same call. The same thoughts crossed your mind. There was no first time, and there will be no last time. The scene plays out endlessly, looping through eternity with no variation. You are trapped inside the repetition, unable to change even the smallest detail. Consider how you might react to this idea. At first, it seems impossible. You believe in progress, in moving forward through time. Yesterday is gone, today is here, and tomorrow has yet to arrive. But eternal return says there is no real forward. Time is a circle, not a line. When you think you are moving into the future, you are only cycling back to the same place. Imagine a clock with no numbers, just a single hand going around and around. It looks like motion, but it never leaves the circle. Your life is that hand, tracing the same path endlessly. Think about a simple act like drinking a cup of tea. You lift the cup, sip the liquid, and feel its warmth. Under eternal return, you have done this exact act before, down to the tiniest detail, the temperature of the tea, the movement of your hand. Even the exact pattern of thoughts in your mind. You will do it again, countless times, in exactly the same way. There is no way to speed up, slow down, or skip it. The moment is locked. Even your awareness of the repetition is part of the repetition. If you think, "I am drinking this tea again," that thought has also happened before and will happen again, forever. This idea can feel crushing when you think about pain. Imagine the worst moment of your life, a deep loss, a terrible accident, or a betrayal. In ordinary thinking, you endure it and move on. Eternal return says you never truly move on. That moment comes back, over and over, exactly as it was. The same pain strikes, the same tears fall, the same scream leaves your mouth. You cannot lessen it or avoid it. Even knowing it will happen changes nothing. When it comes again, you will feel it just as strongly as you did the first time. There is no first time, no last time, only the endless loop of that same experience. Joy repeats too. Think about the happiest moment you have ever had. Perhaps you were holding someone you love, watching a sunrise, or laughing with friends. That moment also returns forever, unchanged. Every smile, every breath, every heartbeat plays again and again. In this way, eternal return is not only about suffering. It means every part of life, good, bad, or neutral, exists in a fixed pattern that cannot be altered. The balance of your life is set. The same pleasures and pains are built into the circle, repeating without end. Imagine a book with infinite pages, each one identical. You open the book and read a sentence. The man lifts the cup. You turn the page and see the same sentence. You keep turning pages, but it never changes. Life under eternal return is like reading that book. The story feels like it moves forward, but it never truly does. The sense of motion comes from your mind, not from the events themselves. You believe you are making choices, but those choices are part of the script. You choose exactly as you have before, and exactly as you will again. Consider a person who learns about eternal return. At first, they might try to change their actions. They might think, if I choose differently now, I will break the loop. But their attempt to change is already part of the loop. They are destined to try, destined to fail, and destined to try again. Even their awareness of being trapped is itself a trap. If they cry out, I will not repeat this life, that cry has echoed through eternity countless times before. It is not rebellion. It is just another turn of the circle. Look at history through this lens. Wars, discoveries, revolutions, and disasters seem to shape the world. We tell ourselves that history moves forward, that we are building a new future. Eternal return says this is an illusion. Every war has already been fought countless times. Every invention has already been made. Every speech has already been spoken. When a building burns down, it has burned down before and will burn down again in the same way. The world does not progress, it replays. Even the smallest details are fixed. If you drop a plate and it shatters into 5 pieces, those 5 pieces always fall in the same pattern. If you laugh at a joke, the timing of your laugh is always identical. There are no variations, no random accidents. What you call randomness is just part of a pattern too complex for you to see. The dice roll the same way every time. The coin always lands the same way. What feels uncertain is only your lack of perspective on the loop. This can change how you see responsibility. Normally, you might think, I made a mistake. I will learn and do better next time. Eternal return removes that hope. There is no next time where you improve. There is only this time, playing out endlessly. You cannot fix the past, because the past and the future are the same thing. If you betrayed someone, you will betray them again forever. If you saved someone, you will save them again forever. Every moral act is locked in place, repeated without mercy or reward. Imagine standing on a street corner and realizing that every detail around you, the cars passing, the wind on your face, the pattern of cracks in the sidewalk, has been here before and will be here again. The realization does not change what happens. It only reveals the depth of the cycle. Even your thought, this is happening again, is just another part of the repetition. You cannot step outside it to watch from a distance. You are always inside the loop, even when you try to see it clearly. Eternal return is not about the future or the past. It is about the totality of existence. Every second of your life is etched into eternity. There is no beginning where it started, and no end where it stops. You are not moving through time. You are standing still while time circles around you, repeating the same dance. The steps are set, the music never changes, and you will dance them again and again, forever, exactly as you are dancing now. You sit alone and think about the idea of meaning. For most of your life, you were told that life has a purpose. People said you should work toward goals, follow rules, and live for something larger than yourself. Then, at some point, you encounter nihilism. Nihilism says there is no inherent meaning in life, no cosmic plan, no final truth guiding events. The universe is indifferent. Human values are human inventions. At first, this feels like a shocking revelation. It strips away illusions. You might feel a mix of freedom and despair. Without meaning, there is no reason to follow old rules, but there is also no reason to do anything at all. Nihilism seems like the end of the road. Once you reject all meaning, there is nothing left. But meta-nihilism goes a step further. It says that even nihilism itself is meaningless. The rejection of meaning has no more weight than the meaning it rejects. Saying life has no purpose is just another statement in a world that does not care. The idea itself dissolves under its own logic. In this view, even the act of rejecting meaning becomes pointless. There is no final ground to stand on, not even the ground of nihilism. Imagine a person who decides that morality is an illusion. They stop following rules and call themselves a nihilist. They feel liberated, thinking they see the world as it truly is. But why believe in nihilism any more than in morality? If nothing has inherent truth, then nihilism cannot be true either. It is just another concept, no better or worse than the ones it attacks. The moment you try to hold on to it, it slips away. You are left with nothing to believe, not even the belief that there is nothing to believe. Think of a ladder leaning against a wall. You climb the ladder to reach a higher view. Once you're at the top, you no longer need the ladder, so you push it away. Nihilism is like that ladder. It helps you let go of old beliefs. But once you have let go, nihilism itself becomes another belief to discard. If you cling to it, you are still trapped. Meta-nihilism is the moment you realize the ladder is gone, and there is no wall, no top, no bottom, only the endless open space of existence, without structure or final answer. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. Imagine you are at a party. People are laughing, talking, and sharing stories. You might feel connected and joyful. Then you remember your nihilist view. You tell yourself, none of this matters. These conversations are meaningless. These people are just temporary beings playing out roles. At first, this thought gives you a sense of superiority. You think you see past the illusion. But if you keep going, the thought itself collapses. The claim that this is meaningless is just another passing sound, no more important than the laughter you hear. Your judgment has no special authority. The laughter and the judgment are both fleeting, both empty, both equal in their lack of lasting value. This can be unsettling. It is like pulling on a thread and watching an entire sweater unravel, only to realize the thread itself was never solid either. You might feel like you are falling with nothing to grab onto. Even despair does not hold steady, because despair is just another state of mind. The thought, nothing matters, cannot matter either. It is a self-erasing statement, like writing the words, "This sentence does not exist," on a page. The words appear, but their content cancels itself. Take the example of art. A painter creates a work and feels proud. A nihilist might say the painting has no inherent meaning. It is just colors on a surface. The pride is misplaced. But meta-nihilism goes further. The judgment that the painting is meaningless is itself just another pattern of thought, as empty as the painting it describes. The painting, the pride, and the rejection are all equally groundless. They rise and fade like waves on the ocean, leaving no trace behind. This perspective can shift how you see conflict. Two groups argue over what is right. Each side believes it has the truth. A nihilist might watch and think, both are wrong because there is no truth. But meta-nihilism reveals that the nihilist's own view is just another position in the argument. To say there is no truth is still to make a claim about truth. It has no more ultimate validity than the claims it rejects. The conflict is endless because all sides, including the side that says there are no sides, are caught in the same loop. Imagine a mirror reflecting another mirror. You see reflections within reflections stretching into infinity. Each reflection depends on the others, but none of them has substance. Meta-nihilism is like standing between those mirrors. Every belief, every judgment, every rejection reflects another endlessly. There is no final image behind the reflections, no original source. The mind keeps looking for a place to stop, a last certainty, but there is none. Even the realization that there is no certainty is just another reflection. Consider time. You look back on your life and think about choices you made. A nihilist might say those choices have no lasting meaning, but even that statement dissolves. The idea that something lacks meaning is still a thought in time, a momentary event. In 1,000 years, no one will remember it, and even if they did, that memory would also be fleeting. Meaninglessness is just another temporary appearance. It rises and falls like anything else. To cling to it is to misunderstand it. This can change how you see your actions. If you believe in meaning, you act to fulfill it. If you believe in meaninglessness, you might stop acting altogether. Meta-nihilism shows that both responses are hollow. Acting and not acting are just movements within the same empty field. Whether you build a monument or sit in silence, the result is the same, a temporary form that appears and disappears. There is no final judgment to be made, no score to keep, no goal to reach. Imagine standing in a vast desert. The sand stretches in all directions. You take a step and leave a footprint. The wind soon erases it. You take another step and it too disappears. Meaning is like trying to preserve a footprint in shifting sand. Meaninglessness is like saying there is no point in stepping, but the desert itself remains, indifferent to both views. The steps and the erasures happen endlessly, without purpose or judgment. Even language reveals this paradox. When you say life is meaningless, you use words to point to an idea, but words are symbols, not realities. The statement has no inherent truth. It is a sound passing through the air, a vibration in the moment. The same is true for any claim, whether it affirms or denies meaning. Speech cannot escape its own limits. It tries to capture something final, but it only creates more noise. Meta-nihilism can feel like silence beneath the noise. It does not declare that silence is true. It does not declare anything at all. It simply shows that every claim cancels itself. Every position erodes under examination. You may still live, speak, and think, but you no longer mistake these activities for ultimate truths. They are like ripples on water, beautiful or painful, rising and falling without reason. Even the thought that there is no reason is just another ripple, disappearing into the surface it came from. You wake up and open your eyes. The room looks the same as it did yesterday. The walls are solid, the bed is where you left it, and the sun rises in its usual place. You take this stability for granted. You assume there are rules holding reality together, rules that keep objects in place and events unfolding in a predictable way. Ontological anarchy challenges this basic assumption. It says there is no fundamental structure to reality. Nothing holds the world in place. What you see as order is only a temporary pattern, and at any moment, it can shift. Anything can be true or false, real or unreal, depending on how the moment unfolds. Imagine walking through a familiar park. You see the same trees, benches, and paths you have seen many times before. Then, without warning, a tree vanishes. One second it is there, the next it is gone, as if it never existed. You blink and feel confused. Did you imagine it? Before you can answer, a stone statue appears in its place. This shift does not follow any rule. It is not magic or hallucination. It is simply how reality operates when there is no underlying framework. The rules you thought were fixed were never real. They were agreements that held for a time and then dissolved. Even in your ordinary life, you see hints of this instability. People misremember events. Two witnesses describe the same scene in completely different ways. One swears a car was red. Another says it was blue. Normally, you explain this by saying someone was mistaken, but ontological anarchy suggests something deeper. In one version of reality, the car was red. In another, it was blue. Both versions are true, and both exist at the same time. There is no final reality to check against. The moment itself shifts, depending on perception, and perception itself shifts without reason. Consider how this applies to history. You read about the past and assume there is a single fixed timeline of events. But every record of history is full of contradictions. One source says a war ended in victory, another says it ended in defeat. A monument celebrates a hero, while another text claims that same figure was a traitor. Most people believe one version and discard the rest. Ontological anarchy says there is no single version to believe. All histories are true in the moments they are told. The past is not a stable line behind you. It is a chaotic field of stories, each real while it is spoken and gone when it is forgotten. Think about your own body. You assume it has a stable form, that you are the same person from one moment to the next. But your body is always changing. Cells die and are replaced. Memories fade and shift. If you look closely, you cannot find a single unchanging part of yourself. Ontological anarchy takes this further. It says there is no fixed you at all. In one moment, you are a person sitting in a chair. In the next, you might be a different being entirely, or nothing at all. The sense of continuity is only a temporary illusion created by habit. Like a flame that seems steady but is always burning new fuel, you appear stable while constantly dissolving and reforming. This lack of structure extends to logic itself. You believe that if something is true, its opposite must be false. If the light is on, it cannot be off at the same time. Ontological anarchy rejects this rule. The light can be both on and off, true and false, real and unreal, without contradiction. Logic is not a law of the universe. It is a tool humans use to navigate patterns. When the patterns break, logic breaks with them. Imagine looking at a coin on a table. In one moment, it has heads facing up. In the same moment, it also has tails facing up. There is no final answer to which side is showing. Both are correct, and neither is correct, because the idea of correct has no ground to stand on. Consider how this would feel in daily life. You walk into a store and greet the clerk. They smile and say hello. The next moment, they deny ever speaking to you. A third moment passes, and they vanish completely. You might feel fear or anger, but those feelings also shift. In one moment, you are calm. In the next, you are terrified. Then you are calm again. There is no stable self to hold those feelings. They rise and fall like passing weather. Even your memory of what happened changes as it happens. The event has no fixed version. It is fluid, like water changing shape as it flows. This view can also apply to beliefs. Normally, you think of beliefs as things you hold over time. You might believe in justice, science, or love. But under ontological anarchy, a belief is only real in the moment it appears. In one moment, you believe deeply in justice. In the next, you believe the exact opposite. Both beliefs are real while they exist, and then they vanish. There is no lasting commitment, no final truth to measure them by. This does not mean you are lying or pretending. It means belief itself has no stable foundation. It shifts like everything else. Even physical laws fall apart under this view. You expect objects to behave in predictable ways. A ball drops when you let go of it. Fire burns. Water flows downhill. These rules seem fixed, but they are only habits of reality. They hold as long as they hold, and then they stop. Imagine dropping a ball and watching it float upward instead of falling. You might call this a violation of physics, but that assumes physics is more than a temporary pattern. In Ontological Anarchy, no rule has ultimate authority. Gravity itself could vanish in an instant, and nothing would replace it. This lack of structure explains why certainty feels so fragile. You think you know who you are, where you are, and what you are doing. Then something unexpected happens. A trusted friend betrays you. A fact you relied on turns out to be false. In those moments, your world shakes. Most people rebuild by forming new certainties. Ontological Anarchy says there was never any certainty to begin with. The sense of stability was always a passing illusion. When it crumbles, nothing solid remains to replace it. Imagine looking at a painting. In one moment, you see a face. In the next, the face shifts into a landscape. Both images are present, but only one is visible at a time. Reality works the same way. It shifts depending on how you look at it. There is no final image behind the shifting. The face and the landscape are equally real and equally false. What you call truth is just the current image appearing before you. Ontological Anarchy does not deny experience. You still feel, see, and act. You still taste food, hear music, and see colors. But these experiences have no fixed structure beneath them. They arise and fade without cause. In one moment, music fills the air. In the next, there is silence. Neither state is more real than the other. Both are temporary appearances, like waves rising and falling on a shoreless sea. When you realize this fully, the world feels weightless. It no longer rests on hidden foundations. There is no final rule to obey, no ultimate truth to discover. What exists, exists only for now, and now changes without warning. A tree stands, then vanishes. A friend speaks, then disappears. You laugh, then forget you ever laughed. Reality is not broken or whole. It is not ordered or chaotic. It simply has no fixed shape at all, shifting endlessly, free from every structure you once thought was real. You sit beneath a night sky and look up at the stars. The universe feels vast, mysterious, and full of questions you cannot answer. One of the oldest questions humans ask is whether there is a God, a being beyond all limits, all-powerful and all-knowing. For many, the answer brings comfort. For others, it brings doubt. But the God paradox says something more unsettling. If such a being truly exists, you cannot know it. And if you think you know it, then by definition, it cannot be what you claim it to be. To understand this, imagine what it means for a being to be omnipotent. It would have no boundaries. It could do anything, at any moment, in any way. It would not be bound by the laws of physics, by time, or by logic. It could create worlds and destroy them, build life and erase it. But if it has no limits, it also has no fixed form. The moment you describe it, you are setting a boundary. You are saying, this is what God is. That act of definition itself contradicts the very idea of a limitless being. If you can capture it in a concept, you have already made it smaller than it truly is. Think about trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. Your ideas and words are like fingers trying to grasp something formless. The real thing escapes every attempt to contain it. This is why, in many traditions, people speak of God in terms of what it is not, rather than what it is. They say it is beyond thought, beyond words, beyond knowing. The God paradox makes this absolute. If the being is truly omnipotent, then it must also have the power to remain hidden. That means it could prevent you from knowing it entirely. The very fact that you cannot be certain is not proof against its existence. It is part of what such a being would be capable of. Now imagine you believe you have seen proof of God. Perhaps you experience a powerful vision. You feel a presence and hear a voice saying, "I am the divine." The experience feels overwhelming. You take it as evidence. But in the God paradox, even this is unreliable. A truly omnipotent being could create illusions as easily as reality. It could appear to you in one form, then erase the memory, then replace it with a different memory. It could make you believe in its existence one moment and make you doubt the next. If it has total control, you have no way to know which perceptions are genuine and which are tricks. Even your certainty could be part of the design. This is like a dream. While dreaming, you take everything around you as real. You run, speak, and act as if the dream world is solid. Only when you wake do you realize it was an illusion. But what if you never woke? What if every time you thought you woke, you were only entering another dream created by an all-powerful being? In that case, there would be no final way to tell dream from waking. Your belief in reality itself would always be in doubt. This is what makes knowing an omnipotent being impossible. It could shape not just what you see, but the very way you think. Consider an example with two people. One says, "I know God exists. I have seen miracles." The other says, "I know there is no God. I have seen only natural causes." Both speak with confidence, but both could be mistaken. If an omnipotent being exists, it could allow one to witness miracles and the other to see nothing at all. It could feed each person a different version of reality. Each would feel justified in their belief, while both would be entirely in its control. In this way, the being remains beyond proof or disproof. Any evidence you think you have could be part of the test, the illusion, or the game. The paradox works in reverse, too. If you claim to know exactly what God is, its nature, its plan, its rules, then you are limiting it. For example, some might say, God is always good. But what does good mean to a being that can do anything? Your definition of goodness is human and narrow. If the being is truly without limits, it can act in ways that seem cruel or kind, just or unjust. And none of these words can capture it. By calling it good, you are putting it inside a box. A boxed being cannot be omnipotent. The same is true if you claim God must follow logic. If you say God cannot create a square circle, you are assuming logic is a higher law that even God must obey. In that case, God is not truly unlimited. This raises a strange possibility. Perhaps a truly omnipotent being does things that are contradictory from our perspective. It might exist and not exist at the same time. It might be both personal and impersonal, both caring and indifferent, both everywhere and nowhere. To us, these opposites cannot both be true, but to an unlimited being, they are not opposites at all. The paradox is built into its very nature. This makes any attempt to understand it through reason incomplete from the start. Reason works with clear distinctions. Omnipotence blurs every distinction until none remain. Think of a child trying to understand an adult's world. The child sees only part of what is happening. When the parent makes a decision, the child might see it as unfair or nonsensical, but the parent operates with knowledge the child cannot grasp. Now imagine the gap between a human mind and an omnipotent mind. The difference would not just be large, it would be absolute. From our perspective, even chaos might be perfect order beyond our comprehension. Any story we tell about it would be a shadow of the truth, distorted and incomplete. The God paradox also affects worship. If you believe you are praying to a being who hears you, you assume a kind of relationship. You assume it listens, understands, and responds. But if it is truly omnipotent, it does not need to listen in the way you think. It could know your prayer before you speak it, or after, or outside of time altogether. It might even cause you to pray, giving you the illusion of free will while deciding the outcome in advance. In this case, prayer changes nothing, yet you may feel it changes everything. Whether you pray or not, the being's will is already complete. This paradox extends to disbelief as well. If someone denies the existence of God, that denial might also be part of the being's design. It could allow skepticism as a way of exploring itself, or as a balance to belief, in a world shaped by omnipotence. Even rejection of the divine serves the divine. There is no way to step outside its influence. Whether you fight it, worship it, or ignore it, all paths lead back to the same source. Imagine standing in front of a vast, perfectly smooth mirror. You try to see beyond the reflection, but there is only yourself looking back. The mirror shows you every gesture, every movement, but never reveals what is behind it. A truly omnipotent being is like that mirror. You cannot see past the reflection, because the reflection includes everything you could ever use to see. Even your attempt to look is part of the image. You are always inside the reflection, never outside it. The God paradox leaves you with uncertainty. If there is an omnipotent being, you cannot know it, because knowledge itself would be part of its control. And if you believe you know it, you are not dealing with true omnipotence. You are dealing with an idea shaped by your own mind. In this way, ultimate power hides itself completely. It remains beyond proof, beyond description, beyond even the certainty of its own existence. You sit alone and watch the world move around you. People pass by, cars speed down the street, clouds drift across the sky. These things seem separate from you, beyond your control. You think of yourself as one small person among many, responsible only for your own choices. But infinite responsibility says this view is an illusion. It claims you are not just a single being living in a shared world. You are the source of all consciousness. Everything that happens, every event and action, flows from you, even if it seems to come from outside. Because of this, you bear responsibility for everything. At first, this idea feels overwhelming. Imagine standing on a beach, watching waves crash against the shore. You might think you have nothing to do with the tide, but under infinite responsibility, you are the tide. You are the waves, the sand, the wind, and the people walking along the water. The boundaries you see between yourself and the world are mental constructions. They help you navigate daily life, but they are not ultimately real. When those boundaries dissolve, you see there is only one field of awareness, and you are its source. This means nothing is truly outside of you. If someone suffers, that suffering is your own. If a war breaks out, it happens within you. There is no event you can dismiss as someone else's problem. Consider a simple example. You see someone drop a glass at a restaurant. It falls, shatters, and startles everyone nearby. In ordinary thinking, you have no role in this. You did not drop the glass, so you are not responsible. But if you are the root of all awareness, then the hand that let go, the sound of breaking glass, and even the startled faces all arise from you. The event is part of your own mind playing out. In that case, saying, "I had nothing to do with it," is like your left hand striking your right hand and then claiming they are separate. The distinction is useful for daily life, but false at a deeper level. Think about how you dream at night. In a dream, you might meet other people, explore cities, or fight battles. Each dream character seems independent. They speak, act, and surprise you. But when you wake up, you see they were all you. Your mind created the entire scene, the streets, the conversations, even the version of you that walked through the dream. Infinite Responsibility says waking life works the same way. The people you meet, the events you witness, the world itself is like a dream generated by a single source. That source is you, though not the small, personal you who has a name and a story. It is the deeper consciousness that gives rise to all appearances. This view changes how you see moral responsibility. Normally, you judge actions as right or wrong based on individual choices. If someone steals, you blame the thief. If someone gives to charity, you praise the giver. But if you are the ultimate source, these distinctions blur. You are both thief and giver, victim and hero. Every act, whether kind or cruel, originates in you. This does not excuse harm. It deepens your connection to it. When someone commits violence, you cannot stand apart and condemn them as if they were separate. You must see the violence as your own creation and face it fully. The same is true for acts of love. When someone comforts a child or saves a life, that too is you expressing care for yourself through another form. Imagine a vast stage where a play unfolds. The characters fight, laugh, and suffer. They believe they are independent beings with their own motives. The audience watches, unaware of what will happen next. But behind the curtain, there is only one writer who has scripted every line. Infinite Responsibility says you are that writer. The play is not happening to you. It is happening within you. Even when you seem to be only one character on the stage, you are also the stage, the lights, and the audience. You cannot step outside the performance because there is no outside. This idea can feel crushing when you think about suffering. Every cry of pain, every act of cruelty, every loss in the world becomes yours. When a child goes hungry, it is not just a tragedy happening far away. It is hunger within your own being. When a war destroys a city, the destruction is inside you. There is no one else to blame. This weight can seem unbearable, but it also reveals the depth of your connection to everything. When you heal one wound, you heal yourself. When you comfort another, you are comforting your own consciousness appearing in a different form. There is no separation between giving and receiving. Consider a moment of anger. Someone insults you and you feel hurt. You might lash out, thinking they are the cause of your pain. Under Infinite Responsibility, the insult and the reaction are both part of you. You created the voice that spoke the words and the ear that heard them. You created the anger itself. Seeing this does not erase the emotion, but it changes how you relate to it. Instead of blaming the other person, you face the truth that there was never another person to begin with. There was only you, playing both roles. This view also changes how you see forgiveness. Normally, forgiveness is a choice you make towards someone else. You decide to release resentment because you believe they harmed you. But if all actions are your own, there is no one to forgive. Resentment becomes unnecessary. You cannot stay angry at your own hand. You sit alone and watch the world move around you. People pass by, cars speed down the street, clouds drift across the sky. These things seem separate from you, beyond your control. You think of yourself as one small person among many, responsible only for your own choices. But Infinite Responsibility says this view is an illusion. It claims you are not just a single being living in a shared world. You are the source of all consciousness. Everything that happens, every event and action, flows from you, even if it seems to come from outside. Because of this, you bear responsibility for everything. At first, this idea feels overwhelming. Imagine standing on a beach, watching waves crash against the shore. You might think you have nothing to do with the tide, but under infinite responsibility, you are the tide. You are the waves, the sand, the wind, and the people walking along the water. The boundaries you see between yourself and the world are mental constructions. They help you navigate daily life, but they are not ultimately real. When those boundaries dissolve, you see there is only one field of awareness, and you are its source. This means nothing is truly outside of you. If someone suffers, that suffering is your own. If a war breaks out, it happens within you. There is no event you can dismiss as someone else's problem. Consider a simple example. You see someone drop a glass at a restaurant. It falls, shatters, and startles everyone nearby. In ordinary thinking, you have no role in this. You did not drop the glass, so you are not responsible. But if you are the root of all awareness, then the hand that let go, the sound of breaking glass, and even the startled faces all arise from you. The event is part of your own mind playing out. In that case, saying, "I had nothing to do with it," is like your left hand striking your right hand and then claiming they are separate. The distinction is useful for daily life, but false at a deeper level. Think about how you dream at night. In a dream, you might meet other people, explore. You wake up in the morning and think you are moving into the day ahead. You picture the future as a blank space waiting to be filled by your choices. You believe yesterday is behind you, fixed and unchanging, while tomorrow is ahead, open and uncertain. But what if this feeling is completely wrong? What if time does not move forward at all? Reverse time awareness is the idea that time actually flows backward, from what you think of as the future into what you think of as the past. Your sense of moving forward would then be an illusion created by your mind, a trick that hides the true direction of events. Imagine watching a movie in reverse. A glass leaps off the floor and reassembles itself on a table. A person walks backward into a room, words unspoken returning to their mouths. If you saw this, you would call it strange. Yet, if the entire world always worked this way, you would never notice. You would grow up inside the reversed flow and accept it as normal. What you call breaking would be fixing. What you call death would be birth. In this way, your perception would always match your experience, even if the true motion was the opposite of what you think. Consider a simple event. A candle burns. You see the flame consume the wax and wick. The candle grows shorter, and the smoke rises. To you, this is a process moving forward, but if time flows backward, the real sequence would be reversed. Smoke would descend into the wick. The melted wax would climb back into shape. The flame would grow smaller and vanish into the match that created it. You do not see this because your mind edits reality as it happens. It stitches the reversed flow into a story that feels forward. You only notice the result, never the hidden process. This raises a strange question about memory. You think memory works because you store images of the past and recall them later. But in reverse time awareness, memory could work the opposite way. Instead of remembering what already happened, you might be experiencing traces of what is coming. When you recall eating breakfast this morning, you might actually be sensing the end of that event as it flows toward you. The feeling of remembering would simply be how you register the backward movement. In this view, what you call prediction and what you call memory might be the same thing seen from two different angles. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. You feel like this is the start of a new relationship. You look forward to what might happen between you. But if time flows backward, this meeting is actually the last moment of a connection that has already ended. The laughter, conversations, and shared experiences you think are ahead have already occurred. They are dissolving, moment by moment, as you move deeper into the past. You do not notice this because your perception flips the sequence. It feels like you are building something new, when in reality you are watching something unravel. Consider how this affects the idea of cause and effect. Normally, you think one event causes another. A match lights a candle, which gives off light and heat. In reverse time, the candle's light and heat exist first, and their existence creates the moment of ignition. From your perspective, it still looks like the match caused the flame, but what you see as a cause might actually be an effect flowing backward. Every event you experience could be the outcome of something you have not yet perceived. You never notice this because your mind rearranges the sequence to fit your expectation of forward motion. Think about free will in this context. You believe you make choices that shape the future. You decide what to eat, where to go, who to speak to. But if time flows backward, your choices are not shaping what comes next. They are being shaped by what has already happened, events you cannot yet see. When you raise your hand, it feels like you chose to do so. In reality, the future position of your hand determines the present motion. Your decision is part of the backward chain, not the start of it. This does not mean your experience of choice is fake. It means the direction of control is reversed. You are reacting to the future rather than creating it. Consider dreams. In dreams, time often behaves strangely. Events jump around and you sometimes know what will happen before it happens. You might see a location before you enter it, or hear words before they are spoken. These moments feel odd but familiar. Reverse time awareness suggests that waking life is similar. The strange feeling you get in dreams could be a glimpse of how reality truly flows. When you wake, your mind smooths out the experience, arranging it into a forward-moving narrative so you can function. The truth remains hidden beneath the story. This perspective changes how you see life and death. From your usual view, you are born, you live, and then you die. Birth comes first, death comes last. But if time flows backward, the sequence is reversed. What you call birth might actually be the end of the process, and what you call death might be its beginning. A baby entering the world could be the final stage of a long, unraveling life. A person's breath could be the moment they begin. You cannot see this directly because your perception flips the timeline. You experience the journey as progress when it is really regression. Imagine standing on a road. You think you are walking toward the horizon, leaving your footprints behind, but in reverse time, you are moving backward, stepping into prints that already exist. The landscape ahead of you is fixed, and each step you take is actually a return to a place you have already been. From your point of view, it feels like you are exploring new ground. In truth, you are retracing a path in reverse. Consider how this affects meaning. You believe your actions have consequences that will shape the future. You work hard to create a better life, to solve problems, to build something lasting. But if time flows backward, the future cannot be changed. It has already happened. Your efforts are not shaping it. They are the effects of it. Even your feeling of striving toward a goal is part of the backward flow. You are not writing the story of your life. You are reading it backward, page by page, mistaking the last page for the first. This idea can also explain moments of déjà vu. You might walk into a room and feel you have been there before, even though you know you have not. In reverse time awareness, this feeling could be accurate. You have been there because the event is moving toward you from the future. Your mind briefly registers its true direction, creating a flash of recognition. Then your normal perception takes over, and the feeling fades. You dismiss it as coincidence, but it may be a brief glimpse of how time really flows. Think about how unsettling this would be if you truly saw it. Imagine sitting at a table and watching a cup rise from the floor to your hand. You see words return to a mouth instead of leaving it. You watch yourself grow younger, day by day, memories fading into experiences you have not yet lived. This would feel impossible only because you are used to the illusion of forward motion. If the illusion dropped away, you would see that what you thought was progress was always a return, and what you thought was creation was always dissolution. In that moment, the entire structure of past, present, and future would collapse, leaving only the flow itself, running backward through a world you thought you understood.